Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mandy, could you please call the roll?
Hamstra?
Yes.
Randall?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Carlstone?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
City Council has adopted a code of civility. As elected officials, we pledge to promote civility through extending respect to others, listening to understand, disagreeing without disrespect, engaging collaboratively, and speaking up to address incivility. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and broadcast for Pella TV, so anyone who wishes to speak to council, please approach that podium and microphone before you begin speaking so that those listening at home can hear your comments and see you on camera. Can I get a motion for approval of the tentative agenda?
So
Support.
Van Strylen, Branderhorst, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
Randall?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Carlstone?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
Motion passed. First item is acceptance of Civil Service Commission certified police officer list. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd actually like to turn this item over to Captain Hasse to review with the City Council. So Captain Hasse, please.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, both candidates, Alexis and Wyatt, are both great candidates. They performed very well in our recent hiring process, interview process, and then were certified by the Pella Civil Service Commission as well. Both are well qualified and I think will both be a great addition to our department.
Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion for approval to accept this list?
So moved.
Support. Vanstra, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
Randall?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Carlstone?
Yes.
Motion passed. I would like to reappoint Nathan Wolf to the Civil Service Commission. He has served on the commission since 2022 and has attended all meetings held during his term. If approved, his new 4-year term would expire April 1 of 2023. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Branderhorst. Who was that? Carlstone. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Randall?
Yes.
Carlstone?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
Van
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Motion passed. I would like to reappoint Corey Wester to the Board of Adjustments. He has served on the board since 2019 and has attended 13 of the 17 meetings held during his current term. Due to relocating outside of the city limits, Corey will be moving from a city representative to one of the 2 Marion County seats. The Marion County Board of Supervisors approved this appointment on April 28, 2026. If approved, his term would expire on January 1, 2028. Can I have a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Van Strylen, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Van
Yes.
Randall?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Carlstone?
Yes.
Motion passed. This time we have opportunity for a public forum. Anyone wishing to address council regarding any agenda item, please step forward to that microphone, state your name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Seeing none, we will move on. Can I get a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So moved. Support.
Master Carlstone, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van
Yes.
Carlstone?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
Randall?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Motion passed. We will enter into a public hearing regarding the West Generating Plant Control Upgrades project bids. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item this evening. For those in attendance, those watching at home on Pella TV, I'd like to direct your attention to the big board for a presentation that we have this evening. The presentation that we have is actually applicable to the 2 resolutions associated with this public hearing, but what we're talking about this evening is ultimately awarding the contract for the upgrades to the diesel plant operating system. If you recall, the council We discussed this project during the city's recent budget process and talked about the needs to upgrade the plant controls. And in essence, what we're proposing to do is standardize the operating system for the West Diesel generating plant to the Caterpillar system. And we're moving from an independent operating system over that's unique to Pella over to a standardized system. Now, this is the electrical control system upgrade that we're hiring a private contractor to do the work for us. Now, as far as the bid letting was concerned, we received 2 bids, and as you can see, they both were significantly over the engineer's estimate. The low bidder was Eagle Electric out of Pella, Iowa, in the amount of $398,200 with this. Since this is the second time that we've actually bid the project, the first time we didn't receive any bids for the project, staff is recommending accepting the low bid this evening. That would be Eagle Electric in the amount of $398,200. And I'd also like to mention that we do not believe rebidding the project would result in any lower cost for the project as well. So with that, Mr. Mayor, we are recommending awarding the contract this evening. Be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
All right, thank you, Mike. Any written comments received, Mandy?
No written comments.
Council comments?
Any thought on why that's such a big spread between the 2 bidders?
I'd like to go ahead and refer that question back to Nate Spurgeon, our electric director.
We can only theorize, but I suspect that since this was a rebid, some of these contractors threw a number out there hoping that they might be the only bidder on the project.
Okay, thanks, Nate. Anything else? Any member of the audience want to comment on this particular item? If so, please come to the microphone. All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Support by Answer Hopkins. Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeAnstruck?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
Vanderhorst?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Carlstone?
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7065 entitled Resolution Adopting Plan Specifications, Form of Contract, and Estimate of Cost for the West Generating Plant Control Upgrades. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support. All together now.
Same.
Brander, Horst, Van Strylen. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
DeAnstruck?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Carlstone?
Yes.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7066 entitled Resolution Making Award of Construction Contract for the West Generating Plant Control Upgrades. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Hopkins, Branderhorst, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins?
Yes.
Vanderhorst?
Yes.
Butler?
Yes.
Carlstone?
Yes.
Van Strylen?
Yes.
DeAnstruck?
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, we'll move to a public hearing regarding the airport water main expansion project bids. Mike?
Yes, once again, I'd like to refer everyone's attention to the big board for a presentation on this item. As Mayor DeWard stated, tonight's project is a proposed water main for the Pella Municipal Airport project that we have. And to explain this project that we have this evening is a proposed water main that would extend from Fifield Road and it'd go on the east side of the corporate hangars that we currently have at the Pella Municipal Airport. Ultimately, would extend down to Idaho Drive for a looped water main. Now, the length of the water main is approximately 7,500 linear feet that we have proposed with this project. So let's go ahead, please, Heidi. And as you can see, we did conduct a bid letting on May 6th of this year. We had a number of bidders for the project. The low bidder was just over $698,000. That was per Tobin. And that's also the recommendation from our engineer on the project this evening, which was Garden and Associates, who is recommending awarding the project to the lowest responsible bidder on this. 2 resolutions that we have this evening. The first resolution adopts the plan specifications, form of contracts, and the second resolution actually awards the contract to Perk Tobin for just over $698,000. So with that, Heidi, is there any additional slides that we have? Okay. So staff is recommending approval of both resolutions this evening, Mr. Mayor. We'll be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
All right, thank you, Mike. Any written comments received, Mandy?
No written comments.
Council comments? Any member of the audience have a comment related to this item? All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Support.
Hopkins, Banster, any discussion? Okay, Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7067, entitled Resolution Adopting Plan Specifications, Form of Contract, and Estimate of Cost for the Airport Water Main Expansion. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Van Strylen, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7068, entitled Resolution Making Award of Construction Contract for the Airport Water Main Expansion. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support. Vanderhorst, Hopkins, any discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Motion passed. Move to a public hearing regarding rezoning application from Central College. Mike?
I guess, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item, and as Mayor DeWart stated, tonight's request comes to us from Central College, and is specifically for the property located at 1114 P Street. The request that we have this evening is to rezone the property from institutional to multifamily residential, which is commonly referred to as R3. Now, we do have a description of the R3 district up here on the board as well. It is important to note that the rezoning request that we really have on the agenda this evening, this one and the following one, is what I would refer to as really cleanup action that we have, and what we're looking at is how the property has traditionally been used, which is multifamily residential. In fact, currently that sits on this property is a fiveplex on the property. So what we're simply doing right now with this is zoning the property to how it's been officially used, how it's been used over the years as well, which is R3 zoning or multifamily. So let's go ahead, please, Heidi. Now, as far as the current zoning map and the future use land map that we have shown up on the board, it is important to note that the future use land map dates back to the comprehensive plan back to 2014. And it simply reflects the institutional zoning from the property being owned by Central College. The current zoning map that we have up here, as well as the institutional, the property is located right here, and we have two-family residential that surrounds the property. Going up to R3, I believe when you look at the density, which is always the key issue in any type of rezoning request, the rezoning request would actually have a density per acre of up to 21 units per acre that we have. So looking at the density compared to the two-family residential that we have currently around there, when we looked at our compatibility indexes involved with the comprehensive plan, we basically think that R3 and R2 is very compatible from a land use standpoint. So we do not see any conflicts with this. And it is also important to note, when the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this matter, or reviewed this request rather, on April 27th, they unanimously approved this rezoning request. And staff is also recommending as well. And our reason for our recommendation is it's rezoning of how the property's traditionally been used, which is multifamily residential. And two, with it, when we looked at the land use compatibility index, we did not sense any land, or didn't see any land use conflicts with this rezoning request. So, Mr. Mayor, we are recommending approval this evening.
All right, thank you, Mike. I know we had a written comment in our packet. Any additional?
That is the only one.
Okay. Council comments? Okay, any member of the audience want to comment on this item? All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Vanderhorst and Stryland, any discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Motion passed. So we move to ordinance number 10088, entitled an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Pella, Iowa by amending the boundaries of the R3 district to include the property generally located at 1114 P Street, and directing the zoning administrator to note the ordinance number and date of this change on the official zoning map. This is the first reading. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Van Strylen, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
DeAnstruck,
Yes.
Vanderhorst,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Motion passed. Okay, moving to public hearing regarding rezoning application from Mark Vandenoord. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, a very similar request to what we just entertained with the previous public hearing. This one comes to us tonight from Mr. Mark Vandenoord. It's for 406 West 4th Street, and a property that abuts the Central College property that we just discussed. It's this highlighted area that we have right up here, the black highlighted area. West 4th Street's right over here, P Street's down to the south. Once again, what the request is from two-family residential over to multifamily residential. We believe, we view this as cleanup and simply rezoning the property to how it's traditionally been used over the years. And as you can see from the pictures on the big board, it's been traditionally used as multifamily residential as well, and it currently exists as an 8-plex that currently sits on this lot. So let's go ahead, please, Heidi. Very similar to what we just reviewed with the Central College rezoning when we looked at from a land use compatibility matrix, R3 and R2 get along very well. We didn't sense any type of land use conflicts associated with this request. The Planning and Zoning Commission made a similar finding when they reviewed this matter on April 27th, and we are recommending approval this evening, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Mike. I think we had the same written comment for this one also, right?
Yes. and
Any
that's the
additional?
only one.
That was the only one, okay. Council, comments? Any member of the audience have a comment on this item? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Support.
Vanstra, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
DeAnstruck,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Vanderhorst,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Motion passed. Ordinance number 1089 entitled an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the City of Pella, Iowa by amending the boundaries of the R3 district to include the property generally located at 406 West 4th Street and directing the zoning administrator to note the ordinance number and date of this change on the official zoning map. This is the first reading. Can I have a motion for approval?
Support.
Hopkins, Branderhorst. Dave was kind of quiet there. Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Vanderhorst,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone,
Yes.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
DeAnstruck.
Yes.
Motion passed. All right, this time we'll have a review of the indoor recreation and aquatic center change order summary.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to review where we stand financially from the indoor recreation center project. And it's important to understand too, and just to get council up to speed, where the construction stand is the contractor is looking at completing this project in July of 2027. We anticipate opening the rec center up potentially as early as August of 2027. So construction's about 60 days behind schedule right now with this. Now, when we looked at the change orders, council is aware, but for those members in the public that may be looking at this for the first time, we have two types of change orders for the indoor recreation center. We have the administrative change orders, which is really intended to keep the project on course and moving along. And for that, we formed a committee for the administrative change orders, and that's chaired by Council Member John Butler. I sit on the committee, and also with our project representative, Mr. Bob Veenstra, is also on that committee. We have the authority to approve change orders up to $20,000 for the contractor on this. And again, we're intending to facilitate small change orders to keep the project on schedule with that. To date, we have an authorization of just at $300,000, and we've approved approximately $206,000 worth of change orders out of that committee. So we have a remaining balance of about $94,000 left with our committee. Now, overall, when we look at the indoor recreation center budget, we budgeted right around a 3% contingency for the project. We had a project contingency of $900,000. Our administrative committee was right at $206,000 in administrative change orders. We've had other project change orders that have been in excess of the $20,000. So these would be larger change orders for the project. Those total about $214,000. Which means that we have a remaining project contingency of about $480,000 now. And so my understanding that most of the construction drawings have been submitted by the contractor, so we'd like to think most of the change orders are behind us with it. So right now, we would be happy to inform that the project is on budget as well. So with that, before we move to the pictures, the construction pictures, is there any questions, or Councilmember Butler, would you have any additional comments to add?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. For the construction pictures, I'd like to go ahead and refer those back to our Community Services Director, Spencer Winsenreed. Spencer, could you please walk council through these pictures?
Spencer Winsenreed, 1318 North Prairie. Yeah, so these are, did I submit this to you? This is the pool area here on the right. This is the competition pool. This should be completed, if not completed like this week. So it's right there, completion. And they're gonna move on to other areas. They're also roughing in electrical and HVAC right now. Most of the roof's on, all of the precast siding is on, putting in glass on the sides now too. So it's pretty close to a shell, which then moves them inside for all interior work, which should alleviate a lot of potential delays as far as weather goes. Again, more pictures here of the gym space, and this is the pictures of the lobby over here. So when you first enter, this will be that area on the left, will be your lobby space. It's coming along real well. I think they're picking up some days as from what I understand. So, like Mike says, August will be about the time frame, and this will be completed next year. So.
Thanks, Spencer. Any questions for Spencer? All right. We'll move on to a special event permit request for Vermeer Customer Conference. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this. As Mayor DeWard stated, that tonight's request comes to us from Vermeer Corporation is for a special event permit, a private special event permit on June 25th from 10 a.m. to noon. And the reason why we're entertaining a special event permit this evening is Vermeer is requesting the closure of Vermeer Road from 240th out to 250th Avenue. And we have, just to orientate the council here, here is the Vermeer campus. Vermeer Corporation is located up here. The request to close Vermeer Road is actually this red highlighted area that we have here as well. It is important to note that all pertinent city departments have reviewed this request, and we are recommending approval this evening. With that, Mr. Mayor, we're more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
All right, can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Van Strylen, Hopkins, any discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7069, entitled Resolution Temporarily Closing Public Ways or Grounds in Connection with a Special Event Known as the Vermeer Customer Conference. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Vanstra, Van Strylen, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Motion passed. Move to a special event permit request for Pray for America Pella. Mike, please let us know what this is about.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Mayor, this request comes to us tonight from Elam Arrival, and hopefully the pronunciation of that is correct, as well as the Well of Iowa. They've applied for a special event permit request to hold a Pray for America on the Pella Tulip Torrent on September 12th from 5 to 9 p.m. Now, it is important to note in the event of inclement weather, they are looking at September 13th as the rain date for this as well. Now, the reason why we are looking at a special event permit request is they are looking at closing 8 parking spaces on the north side of Franklin Street, right in front of the Tulip Torrent as well. All pertinent city departments have reviewed this request. A permit fee has been received, and staff is recommending approval, and that approval is pending receipt of the necessary insurance certificates. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
All right, can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Vanderhorst, Van Strylen, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Vanstra.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7070, entitled Resolution Temporarily Closing Public Ways or Grounds in Connection with a Special Event Known as Pray for America Pella. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Van Strylen, Branderhorst. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Feenstra.
Yes.
Motion passed. New special Class C retail alcohol license for Central College doing business as Pella Cinemas. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Mayor DeWart stated this tonight's request comes to us from Central College, and it specifically is for a new 12-month special Class C retail liquor license that would become effective on July 1st of this year. And we do have a description of what's involved with special Class C liquor license as well. Would like to mention with this, as far as the license does not change the zoning use or the zoning classification of the project, how the city staff will classify the use of the property as well. This is an accessory use to selling of alcohol as well, and that has been reviewed with legal counsel. It is important to note that Central completed their application online with the state of Iowa, and city staff believes they've met all pertinent city code requirements, and we are recommending approval this evening.
All right, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Hopkins, Branderhorst, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone,
Yes.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Feenstra.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7071 entitled Resolution Amending Ambulance Service Fees. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'd be happy to explain this item. As Mayor DeWart stated, what this resolution would do is adopt new ambulance fees for the city of Pella. With it, it is important to note these are the same ambulance rates that we discussed during our policy and planning session on May 5th. Now, the driving reason for this is to align the fees with the reimbursement rates currently published by Blue Cross Blue Shield. As we discussed on May 5th, the city of Pella is an in-network provider, which means that there is a discount offered to Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance holders on this as well. The Blue Cross Blue Shield rates are right over here. By being a network provider, we talked about the cash flow with this and the ability to avoid additional collection expense from customers that use the Pella Community Ambulance as well. Equally important to note, when we look at the new fees, you will see here something that's a little bit different than what we've done in the past. There's an additional charge for any resident or non-resident outside of that does not live within our corporate boundaries. They will be charged an additional $150 for the rates. So once again, these are the same rates that we discussed on May 5th, and city staff is recommending approval this evening.
All right, can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support.
Branderhorst, Van Strylen, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst.
Yes.
Van Strylen.
Yes.
Feenstra.
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone,
Yes.
Hopkins.
Yes. Motion passed. Resolution number 7072 entitled Resolution Appointing UMB Bank N.A. of West Des Moines, Iowa to serve as paying agent, note registrar and transfer agent, approving the paying agent and note registrar and transfer agent agreement and authorizing the execution of the agreement. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we'll try to be brief. This presentation is actually for Resolution 7072 and 7073 on tonight's agenda as well. A little bit of background on this. Recently, we approved a bond issue for the funding of the University Street extension for those in the audience and those watching at home on Pella TV that might not know what the University Street extension is. So we're in the process of extending University Street from 240th Avenue out to 250th Avenue, and we're also in the process of extending Baseline Drive to the north to link up with the new University Street extension. When the project's all finished, we'll have two entrances into the Pella Community Sports Park, and the University Street extension project will also be the new primary entrance for the indoor recreation center. Now, we anticipate, hopefully before the snow flies this year, that project will be completed. The bond issue involved the Parliament selling of bonds in the amount of $5,620,000 of general obligation bonds. We do have a little bit of the details of the bond issue that we have up here on the board. I would like to say that the city is one of the few rural entities or cities in the state of Iowa that has a bond rating that we do have a AA3 through Moody's. Now, one of the things we've been after for several years to get that bond rating improved. In case you wondered, one of the big drawbacks on that is right now we have about a 30 to 35% general fund reserve balance that we have for our cash balance. what I heard from Moody's, to get that any higher, you'd be looking at 50 to 60% cash balance. So as the bond raters, bond agencies always state and tell us of that, cash is king on that with the general fund. So that's just something, when we always talk about fund balances, to keep that in mind, that's probably not gonna happen anytime soon, but equally important to note, I think that's a very good bond rating for rural Iowa nowadays as well. Now, as far as the bonds themselves, it had a true effective interest rate of 3.93%. We had a 20-year bond issue on it. Now, we do intend to review that bond issue after 7 years, and if we can get a better deal, it's likely those bonds will be refinanced as well. So as far as both the resolutions that we're considering this evening, the paying agent, transfer agent, which simply is the bond register, keeping track of the bondholders, making sure they get paid as well. And then we do have some tax exempt and continuing disclosure certificate. Hopefully, we'll never activate the continuing disclosure certificate, because if we do, then things would be really bad on that as well. But it simply lays out the conditions that if we ever cross one of those, that we will notify the bondholders as well. So with that, Mr. Mayor, we are recommending approval of both resolutions this evening. Be more than happy to answer any questions the council may have on this item.
All right, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support. Vanstra, Hopkins, any discussion? All in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanstra,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Vanderhorst,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7073, entitled Resolution Amending Resolution Approving and Authorizing a Form of Loan Agreement and Authorizing and Providing for the Issuance of $5,620,000 of General Obligation Capital Loan Notes Series 2026B and levying a tax to pay said notes, approval of the tax exemption certificate and continuing disclosure certificate. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved. Support.
Hopkins, Van Strylen, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Vanstra,
Yes.
Vanderhorst,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Motion passed. Resolution number 7074, entitled Resolution Fixing Date for a Public Hearing on the Proposal to Convey Certain Real Property to Lighthouse LLC. Mike?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Once again, I'd like to refer everyone's attention to the big board for a very brief presentation on this item. The key takeaway with this resolution, what we're really doing, is establishing June 2nd as the public hearing date for proposed property transfer at the Boss Lawn and Golf Course. Now, just to orientate everyone, we have Harvest Road, which is a new road and a new development that has been constructed. These are existing lots and houses out there. Lot 8 is currently vacant as well. What's being proposed is a transaction with Lighthouse LLC for remnant parcels at the Boss Lawn and Golf Course. The city would be transferring the red highlighted area shown in red, just over 1,600 square feet. In return, we'd receive the green highlighted area from Lighthouse LLC, just shy of 2,900 square feet. And so with that, Mr. Mayor, again, all we're simply doing is establishing June 2nd for the public hearing on this proposed property transfer. And Heidi, let's go ahead to the second slide. We do have a summary of the transaction listed up on the board. And again, we'll be discussing those transaction details on June 2nd. So once again, Mr. Mayor, all we're simply doing is establishing the public hearing date for this proposed property transfer. And with that, we are recommending approval of the resolution this evening.
All right, thank you, Mike. Can I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Support. Vanderhorst, Hopkins, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Vanstra,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Motion passed. Can I get a motion for approval of abstract of bills number 2199?
Move to approve and issue warrants.
Support. Vanderhorst, Hopkins, any discussion or questions? All right, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Vanderhorst,
Yes.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Van Strylen,
Yes.
Vanstra,
Yes.
Butler,
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Motion passed. Any council member have any other business you would like to have addressed this evening? Any member of the public have any other business that you would like to have addressed this evening? If so, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes.
eye surgery, so otherwise it would be very much a challenge. Good evening. My name is Jim Mueller and I reside at 1008 East 2nd Street, Pella. I've served the citizens of Pella in a number of capacities. Currently, I'm serving on the Marion County Board of Supervisors as a member of, and as a member of the Pella Municipal Airport Committee. I'm here tonight to speak to you about the issues and opportunities that face our local airport. Google defines a municipal airport as an aviation facility owned and operated by the local government entity, such as a city, town, or county. These airports primarily serve general aviation needs like private flying, flight training, and corporate travel, rather than the large commercial airlines, and they act as a key economic driver for local communities. I provide this definition only to emphasize the many benefits provided to the community by a municipal airport. It's easy to fall into the trap that the only users or beneficiaries of these facilities are large corporations. Granted, they're a critical component of a successful airport, but other users are equally important. FBOs, or fixed base operators, survive on flight training, fuel sales, hangar rentals, aircraft repair, and without all of these revenue sources, many FBOs simply would not survive. It should be without question that decisions made at this airport must include the needs of the small aircraft users as well as our corporate partners. Soon, you will be asked to approve an FAA-required airport layout plan, also called an ALP for short. An ALP is a detailed FAA-approved blueprint that graphically depicts all current and future development of the airport. It serves as a visual guide for the facility locations, runway configurations, land use, and it ensures all changes comply with federal safety and design standards. It shows proposed expansions such as runway extensions, new terminals that are planned for the near and long-term future. With this in mind, I would suggest there are a number of issues that still need to be discussed and resolved prior to the ALP approval by this council. First, I need to point out that the most significant investments at this airport have been put off in pursuit of the combined regional airport between Pella and Oskaloosa, and this process has been going on for over 20 years. With the failure of that project, there are significant upgrades that need to be made for this airport to remain viable and well-positioned for the future. Examples would include a parallel taxiway, more hangar space for both corporate users and small aircraft, more parking, above-ground fuel storage, a wider primary runway, lengthening the runway to 5,500 feet, runway rehab/replacement because it is exceeding its useful life, and a crosswind runway. Every ALP since 1965 has included a crosswind runway, and 51 of the 101 public airports in the state of Iowa have a crosswind runway. There is no, and I repeat no, FAA requirement that you must own the land to include that type of a design in an ALP. There are legitimate reasons for ALP to include all of these improvements. If they're not included, then they are not eligible for any FAA support. Granted, many of these improvements are expensive, but they may also be eligible for a 90% match from the FAA. Plus, history has proven the citizens and corporations of Pella are very generous when it comes to support a needed community project. Last week, an airport committee work session discussed many of these improvements and recommended that they be added to the preliminary ALP. However, no official committee vote was taken and no council recommendation has been made. Any representation made to the contrary to that is false. I also attended the SCRAA board meeting on May the 14th. Soon they'll be asking each of the city councils of Pella and Oskaloosa to vote to terminate the 2080 agreement and instruct them, the SCRAA, to liquidate the land already acquired for that project. I urge you to complete this task forthwith. The FAA has indicated that they will not fund any projects at either the Pella or Oskaloosa Airport as long as this agreement remains in effect. In closing, I'd like to make the following suggestions. Number one, terminate the SCRAA 2080 agreement ASAP and instruct the SCRAA to liquidate the acquired property as appropriate. Number two, delay any approval of an ALP until it is approved and recommended by the entire Pella Community Airport Committee. And finally, finally, please make time to go to the airport, visit that facility, learn about the many services that are provided there that support this unit or this community. I thank you very much for your time and your attention in this matter, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I'd like to make a comment, but I'd like to make a comment, and then I do have a question. Out of everything, and I'm just gonna turn it to myself at this point. This is my 9th year as serving. And the airport is still a mystery to me, Jim. And I wanna say I do appreciate you coming tonight, because I think as a council, we need to stay ahead of this. We need to be proactive about this master plan and not reactive, because we're dealing with the FAA, and that's the big guy. And I can only speak to myself. Is there a way that we can get a recommendation presented to us by your committee on this? Because you are the pilots. You guys are the experts. We are not pilots. We have some knowledge, but it seems to me this is a very delicate situation, and one that could really be a firestorm if we are not educated on it.
Sure, and I think the short answer to that is absolutely. That's what we're charged with, is going through, looking at those things and making recommendations. And that would include the support for and recommendation for the ALP. Now, the issue there is so many of the prior considerations were always put off because we were going to move to the regional airport. We didn't make those investments. We didn't make those kind of plans because we were always going to move.
Right.
Now we're not going to move.
Right.
So now we need to maximize the capability and the opportunities that we have existing today at that airport. And if we shorten our ability in order to do that, we will pay a terrible cost down the road.
I do, and I did take the liberty at our last meeting of going into the ordinance book, and your committee is actually charged with giving us the information that we need. And what I'm saying is, I know for myself, and I hope my colleagues, we're very open to listen to what you have to say. And we need to listen to what you have to say.
I would love to be able to be added as a regular presenter to the council on what things are going on within the committee, just to keep you guys appraised of everything that's going on, the issues that we're facing and the things that we're considering.
Yeah.
I will say that their committee meetings are public. You can go, I've been to several.
Yeah.
So you're welcome to, I think they meet the last Friday of the month, typically at 7 a.m. So anyone that wants to go sit in on the airport committee meeting to hear the discussions, are more than welcome.
And we're also trying to provide the access to that so that we can do remote access as well.
Okay.
So now we're not there yet, but we're trying to make sure that all of those things, knowledge is power, and we're trying to spread that around so that everybody knows what's going on out there. There's no secrets, and what we want to do is to provide the best possible service for the community with the best possible future. I'm sorry, Mike, I'll get back to you. Go ahead.
Mr. Gill, I appreciate you coming this evening. And just to clarify, and I know you said it, but I want to hear it again, that once this plan gets finalized and filed, it's virtually impossible to change it.
It is extremely difficult. There's so many things that aren't impossible. It'd be hard for me to say it's impossible, but in the short term, absolutely, it would. The problem that you run into is if something falls off of that plan, and it's allowed to, I don't know, something's built up or whatever, and then pretty soon that clear zone is now built on. Well, now you can't include it in a future ALP because you can't go out there and acquire that property and knock down things. So you have to work around that. So it's better to have that on the front end of the process. In fact, that's what the FAA suggests that you do, is create clear zones all around the airport in order to be able to acquire that property so that you can have future expansion capability. And also, the other consideration is the more buffer you have between an airport runway and houses and homes, the quieter it will be for those guys taking off. So being able to acquire additional property, I think, is key out there in that facility in order to support that facility. And we all know it'd be a lot more expensive to try to move that sucker because we've looked at that. So let's maximize what we have and make it the best possible version of what we have for ourselves and our kids going forward. Like, I'm sorry, Harold.
Well, that's what I'm thinking too, get everything in there, that crosswind, that has to be in there. And it looked like somebody was trying to drop that, and I'm saying, no, no, no.
I appreciate that. Mike?
Mine's probably the easiest question of the night,
Okay.
just a logistical. You mentioned that the airport committee's still reviewing the side of
Yep.
it. They're gonna review the ALP. Do we have a kind of tentative schedule when that's going to occur? And the reason why I'm asking Supervisor Bueller is we tentatively had this scheduled for a June 2nd council meeting
Right.
on it. So we'd like to have the committee's recommendation before we get to that
Like I
point.
said, we had and I'm here representing myself here tonight. I don't represent the committee. I wasn't charged with anything. I do not have the authority of the committee. I want to make that clear. This is just Jim Mueller speaking there as a participant. But the answer to that question is we do have another meeting, regular meeting, scheduled for the 29th.
Okay.
And that will be coming out shortly on how to get on that. And that will be one of the things that we'll be talking about. That's our primary issue, is trying to get that thing finalized.
Okay.
So that we can give you guys something to actually consider and vote on. The sooner we get that done, and the sooner that 2080 agreement goes away, the sooner we can start moving forward with our property here.
Very good, thank you.
Sure.
Okay,
Anything else?
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
anyone else want to address council? Before we move into policy and planning?
Hello, Kathy Dow, 625 Highway T14 here in Pella. I wanted to address, I know that you have a proposed urban renewal plan coming up with Central College. And on their website, they have the Imagine More proposal that they want to do. And they ask, what if you couldn't tell where Central College ends and the City of Pella begins? And I would ask you to keep that definition very well defined. Why do we want Central College's reach to extend further into the community? Do we not pride ourselves on our Christian past, on our current Christian culture, on our current family-friendly culture? When asked, its own president allegedly said it's not a Christian school. Its Common Ground Gay Straight Alliance holds drag show brunches regularly, advertised for all ages. How is an institution that is clearly opposed to many of our current values blurring their line in the community? How does that not drag our local culture closer to the rest of the nationwide culture of degeneracy? Why is the college attempting to expand its housing when admission rates have been falling for a number of years? In addition, we do have a housing issue here in Pella. When people ask for more housing, not only do we not mean the sterile, overpriced neighborhoods few can afford currently being built on tiny lots with big HOA rules, our desire for more housing also does not mean more than 1,000 units for transient student housing for a college with declining admission numbers, while at the same time possibly using city funds, our tax dollars, to do this, when our city has many more items that need attention and funding. On the slide that you showed earlier, the future land use map, it shows Central College owning the entire block of housing. West 3rd Street, Peace Street, that whole block was blue. It's now, the future use said institutional. What happens to those families who are there right now within homes? And how exactly does that help the housing problem here in town? I appreciate the college, their involvement in our community very much, but we need to be sure that it is the college keeping to the requirements and culture of the city, not the city bending its culture and morals to the college. And not placing the college's desires about the well-being of Pella citizens. We need to be sure our limited funds are being used in ways that maintains what we already have before spending it on a project for the college. There are many issues that need clear answers before you proceed forward with anything related to Central's Imagine More initiative. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, we will move into our policy and planning discussion, starting with the proposed urban renewal plan, which encompasses the Central College campus. I think we have representatives from the college here that you're going to start.
Well, I'll try to start, Mr. Mayor, I'll give an introduction on this matter before we turn it over to Dr. Mark Putnam on this matter. But as Mayor DeWard stated, what we're here to talk about tonight is a proposed urban development renewal plan. And this particular plan that we're discussing tonight encompasses portions of the Central College campus. Now, when we talk about urban renewal plans, it's important to keep in mind that this is the first step in the development process typically for cities, is they identify an area that they're hoping to either develop or redevelop it, and this is in accordance with state code as well. And in this particular case, when we talk about urban renewal plans, it's important to keep in mind that generally it's the first step. It's just that, it's a plan. It's intended to cover and encompass a long period of time. Usually they're over 20 years as well. So again, this is a long-term vision, long-term plan. Now, quite often, as is the case with this plan, oftentimes they consider public infrastructure projects, and they also identify amounts for future economic development incentives. And we're going to be talking about both of these in detail before we get to it as well. Now, with that, it's very important to keep in mind on the projects that we're going to talk about the city tonight. If the council proceeds and approves an urban renewal plan with it, we're not obligated to do any of the projects or provide incentives in the plan just because you approve an urban renewal plan. So there's absolutely no obligation for the city to do this. Rather, how it should be viewed tonight is we have an opportunity for potential redevelopment of a large portion of our city with it. And these projects that were listed could be viewed as eligible projects in the event that council decides to undertake the projects. Now, the best way to look at this is whenever you plan, you're going to plan comprehensively, but the projects will actually be done incrementally. And with them, if they're included in the urban renewal plan, when they're done incrementally, to assist with them, councils or future councils could have the opportunity to award future economic development incentives to help finance them as well if they're merited on it. And I'd also like to mention, whenever you talk about urban renewal plans, you usually talk about tax increment financing, and it's important to note that when we talk about tax increment financing, what we're ultimately talking about is capturing the value of the new properties that would be built on the property. So currently, most of Central College's campus is tax exempt. They do not pay property taxes. What's being proposed is for portions of the campus to be redeveloped, and those properties would become taxable properties. And so how we would do, if the city council proceeded with the urban renewal plan, is when those new buildings are built, we'd be able to encompass or capture those additional revenues and use them to support the redevelopment plan that we're going to be discussing this evening. So let's go ahead, please, Heidi. Okay. A little bit of background before we turn the floor over to Central College is that, the staff's understanding that Central's recently analyzed their need for future student housing and believes that some of their campus could be redeveloped to support the city's rental housing and commercial development needs. Now, this is the case with other urban renewal plans that we have in the city. We have one other urban renewal plan that would be similar. The goal of this urban renewal plan is to provide economic development for the city of Pella. We're also proposing blight remediation through the redevelopment of the campus. And we're going to get into this here in more detail after the Central College presentation. Now, the concept plan that we're referring to this evening, or the redevelopment plan, has been referred to by Central College as Imagine More. And when we look at it overall, what is being proposed or could contain up to, and again, this is over a 20-year time period, so it's a long period of time, could be the redevelopment up to over 1,300 rental housing units on there, as well as an additional 120,000 square feet of dedicated space for commercial development. Now, if you were to go out there and construct that amount of housing as well as the commercial development, it'd be a significant cost. The estimate to do that is roughly about $345 million on it as well. So when we look at this and we talk about the redevelopment, what we're currently proposing with this urban renewal plan is you're looking at tax-exempt properties that are currently not paying property taxes, replacing them with newer facilities which would pay property taxes, in which the city of Pella would be able to capture those incremental revenues to help finance the projects that we're going to be talking about this evening. So Heidi, let's go ahead. Now, as far as the boundaries, one of the things I'd like to mention with urban renewal plans, it's very important to keep in mind, you can't split parcels with urban renewal plans. So you can't, in a lot of cases, show just the actual development area. Almost every single urban renewal plan that we have, it's actually larger than the developable area that we have. When we look at Central College's campus, it encompasses a considerable number of acres, but it's also located on very few parcels. So when we look at the development potential of the campus or redevelopment, you're talking about a much smaller area of the campus than what we have highlighted here, but the issue at hand is with urban renewal plan is you cannot split these parcels. They have to be on whole parcels, so we're actually encompassing a considerably larger amount of area for the urban renewal plan than the actual development of the campus as well. So Heidi, is there anything additional? So with that, Mr. Mayor, unless there's questions for city administration, and I'll also have some follow-up after the Central College presentation on a few other items, I'd like to go ahead and turn the floor over to Dr. Putnam.
Thank you, Mike, Mayor Ward, members of the City Council. Central College was founded by the citizens of Pella 173 years ago. At the time, in American history, this was called the college movement. And communities all over America, as it was expanding, were seeking to get a college in their town. Some records from historians indicate that there were nearly 800 charters drawn across the eastern half of the United States to try to establish colleges, but a little over 200 actually made it and survived, and Central is one of those. But since that founding 173 years ago, we have worked with the City of Pella all along the way and depended upon Pella, as Pella has depended upon us, in order to create the same kind of economic vitality that was envisioned when the college was established by the citizens here. The motivation that existed around that was essentially to say, if you get a college in your town, you can have an educated workforce, an educated citizenry. You can bring in teachers and preachers. And you can also create an economic development engine in your community. And that's why you look across the state of Iowa and you see a lot of small independent colleges that were established within their communities. In our case, though I say we were established by the citizens of Pella, which is true, it was the Baptist Education Society of Iowa that funded a college in this Dutch Reformed community, which I consider to be the earliest form of outsourcing in the history of American higher education. But a remarkable relationship has grown from that through the years. And Imagine More at Central Pella was something that we talked about as a Board of Trustees and established in 2023, essentially saying that Pella, Iowa is the most strategically important asset of the college. And if we imagined more, what more could we do in this? Do I advance slides, or?
Please go ahead, Heidi.
Please, thank you. So the initiative Imagine More that you would find on our website has 6 pillars, and these are the pillars. I won't go through them in detail, but this outlines all of the kinds of things we do across the Pella community. Business relationships. Very recently we announced Big Red Bucks that is traveling into Pella as students can take their ID cards and have money on them that's charged within the campus and eat at restaurants in Pella that have been selected to this point. We're deeply involved with Pella Community Schools and Pella Christian, and all the things that we do in that framework and environment, as well as offering educational experience to citizens here. And we've expanded that recently, as you've seen, by offering online courses that we have access to through a consortium to make that a possibility for citizens of Pella. At the same time, we are the kind of community that wants to develop workforce. And about 1,000 or about 1,200 of Pella's residents are Central alumni. So about 10% of Pella's population are graduates of Central College, which says something about place and being present to a place and being in love with it and wanting to care for it as we move forward. But building that workforce capacity is something we see as a responsibility for our corporations and businesses, churches, the hospital, our educational institutions across the city. Housing is a key area that we'll talk about in great detail. And we seek to do a world of good, which is our fundraising campaign, in which we are looking to do this in a way that develops philanthropy in support of the college, as well as the things that we think support the community. And then community engagement exists as we host about 100 interns on campus every summer for our businesses in town, where we are involved in many, many nonprofit organizations, communities of faith, et cetera, across the city of Pella. So that's the framework of the overall strategic plan. In the Imagine More Community Urban Renewal Plan, we've identified this as the key statement that identifies our values here. And so what we're saying is that as we work on our master planning for the campus, we want to partner with Pella because we think there's a great synergy in what we can do and at the same time what the city needs so that we can work in partnership together, which we have done for decades, in fact more than a century. The key line here is that we want to amplify the synergies between campus and community in order to stimulate local population growth, enhance the quality of life, provide student and workforce-related housing opportunities, and encourage entrepreneurship. This goes all the way back to the founding. That what was intended by the citizens of Pella in establishing a college are these very things in order to build that future, which now 173 years later we enjoy. So we've seen this as a way of bringing together 4 different streams, or I call them lanes. One is that the timing here in bringing in the Pella Comprehensive Plan was key. Pella was at a moment, and is at a moment right now, where it's thinking about its land use, how it wants to develop, where things want to be placed in the future, how zoning may change, and it's time for us to cooperate with that. It's timely to do that. Our master planning for the campus, which like your own community or comprehensive plan, is about 15 years old or more. And so it is time for us as well. And so that connection, that synergy was there. Obviously, it focuses a lot on the city of Pella, Marion County, the things that may be happening within the state, opportunities that may exist there, and even the federal government as we are involved with the U.S. Department of Agriculture for our debt on portions of our campus. So we see an important lane there to work together. And then there's the concept itself. So the task we have had before us is to merge these 4 lanes into one, where we understand what kind of investments are we all thinking about here, and what are the outcomes we would expect from this kind of a partnership if we were to proceed down this path. And so the task has been one of integration. Can we create alignment? These are the people who have been involved, the Board of Trustees at Central, particularly in this case Chad Heiser and Dan Heiting, locally, who have been part of the working group that is identified here. I have served along with Kayla Flanders, Craig Rosa, and Carol Williamson within the college's administration. And then we've also had partners who have expertise, Chad and Dan particularly, as well as Dan Nealon from Marion County and the Economic Development Team, and Karen Eischen from the PACE Alliance, and Jay Dix from GenLink. We have been supported by Matt Cohen from RDG. This is the firm we're using as the architect in order to pull our pieces of this together. We have also benefited greatly from the city staff. We're so grateful to everyone for their help in understanding procedures and understanding the requirements, the legal frameworks, and all the analysis that has to go into doing this kind of thing. They've been a wonderful resource, and we're greatly appreciative of all that. We've been working closely from our RDG team, along with the comprehensive planning architect the City of Pella has, Chris Shires at Confluence. They have met regularly over the course of the past year in order to think carefully about how we could develop this in a thoughtful way. We're grateful for all that's been brought into this to understand what can be considered beyond useful life through the assessment that will be talked about later. And so Simmer and Corey's services have been great. Garden Associates on the engineering and legal descriptions. The city's attorney, Central alum Nathan Overberg, and Christine Stone is the attorney used here. We also use Allers & Cooney as a firm, and here's our council team, including Becky Reeve, John Buns, and Connor Wasson. And then Matt Cohen and Jonathan Martin work together at RDG along with colleagues in order to pull together. So this has been the team. A lot of people with impressive expertise in order to look carefully at how could this evolve in a way that would be meaningful for Pella and for the college. This is where we began. We began looking at where are we in the campus development life cycle and how do we understand the future. There are portions of the campus that are very much dedicated to academics, things that relate to student life, things that relate to the arts, administrative activity, et cetera. So this is almost like a zoning map would look if you're thinking about the city. Same thing for the campus. The areas in orange are what we began to identify early on to say, what would happen if we made these areas available for commercial development? So the key part of this is to understand that the college, in use of about 35 acres of land, is seeking to partner with Pella to bring this land into commercial development that would add it to the tax rolls, and at the same time provide the partnership that creates apartment opportunities, rental apartment opportunities for our students, particularly juniors and seniors, as well as what could happen for the community. And so it's a blend of those. We would see housing that is specific in the way we would go to use guarantees, that we do not see this being developed by the college, but that we would be able to work with developers and say there's a certain portion of these apartments nearer to the campus that we would like to reserve for students, but it would still be commercial development in the way it happens that way. All this land would not be sold. It would be, in our view, leased to developers who would then be able to build the kind of structures that are necessary. That provides a passive income stream for the college, that part of the partnership. At the same time, it helps developers avoid a lot of capital expense in land acquisition costs that would be very high in this area given its location in the center of Pella. So as we were looking at this, we began to say, well, that's the concept of how this could move, but it has a significant effect in helping to create an east-west axis of development across Pella. The way things are developing in the west, we are eager to see ways in which the trails that exist, the walking trails, the bike trails, where roadways might be, could enhance what's happening to the west of Pella. We also see that there are opportunities as University Street is extended and Oskaloosa Street to aid development there, to create energy and influence that would help to grow that part of it. But we see this as a catalyst for development as we move forward. So in the next slide, what we began to look at is what is the actual land area for the college? And this is what the college's view of the 35 acres that would be made available for development. So you can locate yourself on this map and know that just along Fifield Road and then coming down through where our baseball and softball fields are currently, all the way through what we call the Collegiate Center into the campus along Independence. That whole area is what we would see becoming commercially developed and support students where it's appropriate for us to work with developers on creating use guarantees for leasing those apartments with respect to our students. But the majority of this land, the majority of the apartments would actually be workforce-related housing. The target we have in mind is young professionals and young families who need rental units. So as you know from the housing study, 6,400 people every day commute into Pella to work, 10,000 in Marion County. There's an opportunity that already exists in the things you have seen through 2 cycles of housing studies where the workforce needs are there. So our target audience is to be able to attract that population in for our corporations, for our hospital, for our schools, for our churches that need to hire people and have a place to house them. I need to place faculty in housing, or new administrators, or coaches who are coming in. We need this kind of housing in order to be able to develop Pella the way we imagine it. You've already seen the next slide, which is just what the land area looks like from the city's point of view of what has to be involved in that. Now, what I'm going to do is take you very quickly through a set of things that we are imagining more about. If you really were to develop that 35 acres of land, how could it be developed and what would be the opportunity set inside of that? So the next slide begins to lay this out. So what you will see here is the development of that space. If you overlay it, then you would be able to understand that along Fifield Road, we would have the opportunity to develop housing. It would come down through an area that is east of our football field and then have row housing as well as apartments and then work its way down into the campus. This area is of significant impact in terms of the fact that it creates an elegant segue from a single-family home residential community that is aiding the downtown historically, but would transition gracefully so that we can move this through an institutional into a commercial setting that is a very elegant transition into light industrial and commercial. But it also creates opportunities for development around the area. And as we have had some just general conversations with neighbors, they see opportunities in this to think about redevelopment because you would suddenly be creating a population of some significance that would be in here. Now, the east-west development, as we see it, has some really powerful impacts. First of all, it is our view that Pella should be a very significant destination for youth sports. When you go from the soccer complex to our west, all the way through Central College and all the facilities we have, and then you've got Pella Christian, Pella Community Schools, the rec center, the sports complex. I don't think there's a tournament we couldn't host here that would bring in commerce, that would attract population, that would attract students to the college, that would build out the capacities we have. I think of Pella as a destination for the arts. As we think about developing our campus and creating some new arts spaces as part of this, and we think of the wonderful assets of the Opera House, of the work you're doing to renovate the community center and create new opportunities for the arts there as well. There's so many things we can do to create a destination. I see this as a destination for business conferences, things that we can do within the college to expand that corporate interest for corporate training and opportunities to draw communities in from outside of Pella and be a part of what we're doing here. When you look at this map, there's several things that go beyond the immediate things that we have been talking about. First of all, to the west side of our athletic complex, you will see a roadway that architects have looked at this and said, this is a great opportunity to reduce the burden on 3rd Street that runs through our campus. That has a lot of density. It has a lot of traffic that moves through there, particularly at certain times of days. And we have students moving in and around that space. Not the most elegant solution for the way we want to think about that. But 2 things happen in here. One is that you can see this line that runs down. Is there a way of highlighting that?
Mark, I think there's a.
What was that?
Top.
Is this the thing? Oh, yeah. Here we go. Can I do this? Sorry. You can still hear me okay? So right along here, what you would see is this is 8th Street that goes up to Walmart. And the concept would be that a roadway could come in here that would work through our cross-country course with a tunnel and a bridge and come out on University. This would significantly improve traffic flow all the way through here. Everyone who's looked at this as an architect says, why isn't there an exit off of 163 on University Street? Right? And this begins to make an argument for things that could be developed down here and lead to further development in the future. Then what you see here is a whole new street coming off of Washington's intersection with Fifield Road. And this helps to widen the load that would come down into 4th next to the Kuiper complex to locate you here. So this is where we would see this kind of thing changing. This begins to change traffic patterns, to improve safety, of creating opportunity for growth and development that is quite compelling when you think about the economic impact that would grow from this. The next slide begins to break down some specific areas. So we've thought of this in 4 different zones that could be developed. Area A is within the footprint of the college. So when you're looking at this, you would see that some things that you would know on the campus are no longer here. First of all, Pete and Paul and Hoffman, if you know the residence halls, and Peace Hall, that's located here, would be gone as a part of this. But it's also the case that Goss Hall, which sits right here, is beyond useful life as well. It is not air conditioned, and for us to put air conditioning in there and expand it slightly to its original plan would be about $15 million alone. We'd have to tear the corners off the building and put ductwork because there's no ductwork in that building. So from the board standpoint, it doesn't make sense for us to invest heavily in a traditional residence hall as students are more and more thinking about apartment structures. Lubbers is right in this area here. And that's where our art building is. Now that's an original building that the college built many years ago. It has had 2 fires in it through its history. It has been carved up. It was the library at one point. But it has 5 different levels. And we've had engineers look at this repeatedly. We cannot put an elevator in that space. And it is non-compliant with code today. It also doesn't make sense to invest in that facility any further. So as we look at the interior of the campus, what we would say over many years is that we would think about expanding the Vermeer Science Center in this area. We would relocate arts facilities to be a part of Crichton-Ear, and the Cox Snow Complex would come together. We would be able to connect parts of that. That we might be able to do more with Maytag, Student Center, and Central Market here by increasing some opportunities in that. And then there's opportunities that we would see over a long period of time. If I look over many years, the development or redevelopment of what we would think of as our core facilities along with athletics is certainly above $100 million of development that would have to occur. That's philanthropy. That's money we would raise. That's money that we would have to generate in the ways that we normally would. But when we start thinking about these kinds of units, this is sort of an apartment structure here as well, along Independence, this begins to take on a different character. We do imagine, the way we're thinking about this, that student-related apartments would probably be things that would be closer into the campus, and then we would secure use guarantee with developers that would say, these are places we'd like to reserve for our students. It's still commercially developed. This is still on the tax rolls. And we participate by a net lease in the way the land would create an opportunity for Central to keep revenue flowing. And so this is one area that we think particularly is important to look at in the future. Next, we would find up on Fifield Road. This is another one that could be done in concert with the one all the way to the east. This is where the famous noodle factory exists, the blue building that is out here, the Reams building from way back. This is about 12 acres of land. And so we would imagine apartment structures out here, and that this whole area becomes a park. That it would be a place with disc golf and with all of our athletic fields, with a cross-country course, so many other things that are out there that would become accessible. The driving range could become accessible in this in a different way and have an opportunity for the community as well. So we would see this as a place that's specifically important to development. And then, of course, you can see here again, this row here with row houses along here as things are developed. Area C, next slide, is where the Collegiate Center is now, and the small townhouses that were built 50 years ago. They were built in 1974. So in this area here, along Independence, we would see an area that would be developed. Some of these might be associated with places that we would reserve for students, but this is all things that we would say would be a part of workforce housing. That we would want students, essentially, if they were living in this building, to move across the street when they graduate and go to work for one of our corporations or churches or schools or a hospital locally and stay in town. So this development here would be done in a kind of a phased approach next to the Kuiper complex. And then finally, Area D is the most complex, but this would relocate softball and baseball to this area here. The pond would need to expand in this area, and then you've got apartment buildings and the row houses that would exist in this area for development and connect all of this together as one walkable neighborhood. We imagine that there could be some mixed use in this, that there would be a possibility of creating some retail or restaurant possibilities in this sort of a community that would connect in. Everything connects to the downtown. So all of these streets would have ways of connecting in so that you can take advantage of the downtown area as people are living in this kind of community setting. So overall, we see the Kuiper complex becoming a park, and that the campus proper, where we think about our academic buildings, is something more like an arboretum and a place that people can walk through and an amenity thing that would be really quite powerful. It also is the place where we think all the trails could connect. That we could create this in such a way that the trail structures that particularly the county has been interested in could have a nexus point that gives you access to downtown, as well as the Volkswagen trail coming north of that along the railroad track, ways in which we can create an access point that would head off to the east toward the sports complex. All of that could be done as a trail system network that would tie together as one thing. So our view of this overall is that this becomes a very, very powerful economic engine, a flywheel. That it's got a catalytic kind of a process that would be associated with it. And it would create more business opportunity, create more population, create more energy for development all the way across Pella. So that's my piece of this presentation. It would be appropriate to take questions or not.
Sure. Anybody have questions for Dr. Putnam?
So Mark, I have about 1 million questions, but you would expect that from me, I'm sure. I'm hearing you use words like opportunities to the east and integration of the campus with the community. And when I look at the map, I see that there will only be a 1-block area between your proposed URL and the proposed Huber Street URL, which has a much higher blight rate. So if this is truly about integration, combining the community, why wouldn't we take both projects and combine them since there's such a short distance between the two? I mean, I think it's a fair question. I think it's something. I chair the NRG committee, which is the committee that is gonna award the LMI funds to urban renewal projects. But I think it's something that we kind of need to consider cohesively. If
Sure.
this is indeed a cohesive community project, it seems to me that that would be a step that we need to consider. Otherwise, we're separating and we're working at 2 projects, and both projects could end up going after the same amount of funding. Second question, I hear all of this, and my mind goes to TIF funding. You know, we know that there'll be requests for TIF funding in this style of plan. And I just kind of wonder how I need to acclimate myself, me, Lynn, to educate myself. And I'm so glad Barb is in the back of the room, not calling you out, Barb, just glad you're here to listen. With the changes in TIF funding, with the introduction of land lease, is your thought that Central College would go after the TIFs or the developer would go after the TIFs? Because
Developers, we're not the developer.
Okay.
We're simply making the land available for development.
Okay.
And that's also the answer to the Huber Street question. All we can make available is our land.
Okay, okay. So in that, the developer, I have to think this through before I make this statement. That's where I get a little gray area. And that's where I need to have the reading of the recent TIF funding changes, which are, I reached out to 4 legislators last night and this morning, and all 4 said, we won't be able to talk to you for 2 weeks. So I guess my other question to you is, what do you want from us tonight? What is your goal?
To introduce this vision.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
Nothing more.
Would you be open to discussion about joining the two projects?
I have no objection to what this is a city question, not a college
Okay.
question, right? Because Central College can only make its land available, which is why we're proposing this. The city's discernment of what is an urban renewal area is its
Right.
choice, not
Right.
ours.
I guess my question, I'm gonna rephrase it. Would the combining the 2 projects still remain true to your vision?
I don't think it competes with our vision.
Okay.
And
that's
so I think
what
if there's a
need to know.
reason for the city to expand that universe of interest, I think that's a city question.
Okay.
It doesn't change what we would be proposing.
Okay. I'm just a question asker.
Sure.
You know that about me, and I appreciate your
Happy to do it,
patience.
as always.
Councilmember Brown DeHorst, I think that's a very good question as far as the Huber Street redevelopment area. And this is just staff's analysis, and it should be decided and discussed at the city council level, full disclosure on this. But our initial assumption on the Central College redevelopment plan is there may be advantages to the city to keep them separately. We've been operating with the Huber Street area. There's a number of residential structures. We picture somewhat smaller developments, number of property owners involved with that. And we had thought of a different strategy other than a traditional urban renewal area for that. That may allow smaller projects to happen organically without necessarily city administration or the city having development agreements for each of them. So in other words, we were looking at strategies. If someone were to improve the value of their house on it, there may be some tax abatement involved that the city may want to consider that could happen organically if the property owner immediate benefit help address the blight issue on that side.
Right.
But ultimately, our initial assumption on that is there's a number of residential property owners in the Huber Street area that's separate and distinct from the Central College area. So we thought there would be advantages to keeping them separate.
Okay.
And that's just something that we've done initially, but I think it'd be, again, it's gonna be the city council's decision.
Okay.
on
I
it.
just think
That's
it-
why they're structured the way they are.
I just felt it bear mentioning.
Anybody have any more questions for Dr. Putnam? Otherwise, we'll talk amongst ourselves about the city's responsibility here.
I guess I was gonna ask you a question, Don, but I think in the Mullen route, is this the way that started, an idea and a urban renewal plan?
Oh, exactly, yes. I say, but anybody, thanks, Dr. Putnam. You're still here if we come up with something. So I think what staff is looking for us tonight is, we're talking about a proposed urban renewal area, a designation that the city has to create. And then, as Mike said in his presentation, we're not committing to anything. This is just the potential. So we need to let city staff know if we're gonna take the next step towards establishing the urban renewal area. And then after that, of course, a lot of things will have to happen before we actually get to redevelopment of the area. Personally, I think this is an incredible opportunity for the city of Pella. The one difficult thing in communities growing is land, finding land. This is land that's right in the middle of town. College is making it available for redevelopment. I think there's some misunderstanding that this is development for the college. It is not. This is development for the city of Pella, for this community. The college is simply making the land available for use, which is a big deal in my mind, to create. We can't find this kind of infill land anywhere to redevelop to this magnitude. And so I think we need to keep that in mind. So we're simply at this point as a city talking about creating the urban renewal area. And then after that, whether it's incentives or what the city is going to be doing, that all of that gets broken into different parts, and we make those decisions along the way. Right now, we're simply trying to get move towards establishing the urban renewal. I am very much in favor of establishing the urban renewal. And I think your question is good, and I think Mike will figure out whether it makes any sense to combine it all into one. I think the Huber Street compared to this, I don't know what you're thinking. If you're talking about a total redevelopment, this is a total redevelopment of land. Huber Street may be more of a redevelopment of existing properties. I don't know.
Right, totally.
So they might be, and I'm not saying, I'm just saying they might be kind of not the same.
I was just imagining
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
So I'll start us off. I have no problem dedicating this as an urban renewal, urban blighted area. It meets the parameters under the state of Iowa, and I think it is a unique opportunity. And really, Central really took a big leap when they gave up their institutional zoning. I mean, that's huge. That's huge because you're now under a more restrictive zoning area, and it shows me that you do believe in this project, and you're going to, give up almost a cherished zoning. So I have no problem.
I think the other thing that excites me about it is the proximity to the downtown.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so close. Everything's walkable. Really integrate this area into the community. Create a community that could integrate with the rest of the community. That's an opportunity that doesn't come along in too many lifetimes. I can promise you that.
It's hard to envision what it could look like in 20, 30, 40 years. I won't be here.
Well, they've done some work here and tried to create a vision, but the housing needs we have, the latest study shows that we're going to continue to need these housing. This is a huge opportunity, in my opinion.
Can you just list a few of the benefits of being in an urban plan area? Seems so far I'm not clear on that.
When you look at the redevelopment of the campus and what's being proposed, and again, this is a plan over the next 20 to 23 years on it. It involves a significant private investment of roughly $345 million. What's been recently passed by the state of Iowa as far as tax increment financing legislation, urban renewal plans, if you're proposing housing developments currently under Iowa law, what those housing developments and what the city can incentivize is the public infrastructure aspects of those plans. For blighted areas, we have more tools in the toolbox to redevelop the parcels. What we have for blighted areas is we could also incentivize projects within the areas for housing as well. So it's just not public infrastructure, it's also housing for this as well. But when we looked at the plan and the redevelopment plan and thinking about it on the scale of $345 million, would be our assumption for that large of an investment in our community, even if it is over the next 20 years, we feel it's very likely there's going to be economic development incentives that will need to be offered for it. And simply due to, if you look at the existing number of buildings that will need to be removed and redeveloped on the site, that's a part of the $345 million investment. So again, what the urban renewal plan does, just to put it simply, succinctly, it allows the city council, if it chooses to do so, to award economic development incentives for these projects on a case-by-case basis. Where if we did nothing, you would not have the ability to incentivize the project. The second aspect, I would say, is if you look at the public infrastructure costs that we had, is there's roughly right around $22.3 million of public infrastructure. I personally think, after looking at the recent tax and new TIF law changes, part of the strategies for communities is going to be using TIF districts to fund public improvements on here. Part of the cost, or the estimated cost that we had in these public improvements, would be streets that we would be doing regardless if there was an urban renewal plan or not. So in the strategy on financing both reconstruction in this area's public infrastructure, what the urban renewal plan allows us to do is to capture tax increment financing from the new buildings that come on board and use those to help finance public improvements, which should lessen the tax burden of the city of Pella. Those would be the two main issues: economic development incentives and help to finance public improvements as well. The main ones.
Well, I get the word incentive sounds great, but it's always somebody's money. Taxpayers' money.
Good. And the reason I stated with the urban renewal plan on it, and I think these are all valid points on it, but when you look at incentives, keep in mind that urban renewal plans period over 23 years, it has items that could happen. When we get to economic development incentives, you'll be looking at specific projects with a specific request from a developer and the specific details on what those incentives would involve on it as well. So again, by having it in the urban renewal plan, it allows this council and future councils to award economic development incentives if they're merited or warranted.
Thank you.
Mary, you mentioned it was beneficial for the city of Pella. I don't disagree with that at all. I feel like it's very symbiotic. I think it benefits the college tremendously as well, because it's part of the city-college partnership. I love the inventiveness and imagination going on here. I think it's a really unique opportunity for a city to partner with a college. Is TIF applicable to leased ground? Is one of my questions, but I'm not getting specific tonight. Are developers interested in leased ground? Or would it be something that the college might be a co-investor in their portion is the ground? Some of those, like, kind of how inducing is it to a developer come to mind. I think it could be tremendously helpful for Central. We heard tonight that it's hard to be in higher education right now. I went to college in a different place, but our city and our college were very symbiotic and mutually benefited each other. And we moved here 20 years ago, and I've always wondered why there wasn't more of that in Central and Pella. So I feel like there's maybe a little bit of an attitude shift here, which is great. Kind of letting the kids off campus a little bit. No question in my mind, part of the reason I want to sit in this seat is I want to be for Pella's future, which I think in large part entails continuing to feed our big, small, medium businesses and industry. And I think keeping really talented, really great human beings that Central seems to develop around is really, I think, paramount to our future. There were some comments earlier about some of that quality of human, and some of my best friends in town are Central grads. I can vouch the ones I know are very high quality human beings.
that have a really big picture in mind and proud to know them. So Central keeps putting those kind of humans out. Pella's off to a good start and a great future. So I think this is a really exciting concept. There's a lot of details and a lot of, there'll be a lot of sacrifice. Each side will have to kind of figure out how to make it work, like any good relationship. So urban renewal step one.
Yeah, I think in regard to, there's been some, the word incentive gets thrown up here. I mean, every time we do a TIF for a housing development, which we've done a few in the last few years, the question is, would the development happen without the TIF? Because the money that, using TIF, the money that pays for those incentives comes from new development. It's not any current, no one currently on the tax rolls pays for it. It comes from the new development. In this particular case, you're taking 35 acres that is not paying any property tax now, and so any incremental value that is added, I assume, starts at zero. And so as we would consider project by project, those decisions are made at that time. We can't do any of it unless we start with an urban renewal. Set the urban renewal up. Then we can have more detailed discussions about what we need to do from infrastructure. You know, the beauty of this also is most of the infrastructure, other than there's some projected new streets and stuff, but if you're talking about electric, water, sewer, it's all there. So the cost to develop this is going to be significantly less than a new bare piece of ground. And again, we're not committing to anything now, but we do need to establish the urban renewal plan to even start the process.
I just can't think of any reason why we would not do it now. I mean, there's no obligation to the city, and the harder discussions come in step 2, 3, and 4. As we look at the various avenues we can help with it, and that's part of what we do as a city council, is try to help with development in one way, shape, or form. So if we don't get this at least approved, then we don't even have the opportunity to discuss different ways to help. So I just think that it's a wonderful opportunity to start with.
The only, I guess, drawback that I see is in 1998, I lived on the first floor of Pete and Paul in a double room with three guys. And that was really character building for me. And so I think that if Pete and Paul goes away, that opportunity for character, you know, maybe it gets shifted somewhere else, but that's,
You might be the reason there's
Spencer, I was just going to say that you're the reason they're tearing it down.
You ruined it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get in a character building contest. There's no air conditioning in my dorm.
Yeah.
Or all in my class, but yeah.
But John, we come from an era where we didn't have it in our house either.
That's true.
And I don't want to go back there because I like to sleep in the cool.
Well, I'll say one more thing, and I'm all for development. I think this is a pretty interesting plan. It'll be interesting to see how it unfolds, although Harold and I won't see a lot of it probably. At any rate, I think that we need to be very conscious of everybody in town that wants to develop something. Everybody. And I'm not going to bring up any names, but there's been more than once it seems like there's been people that want to do something and they get blocked. So we need to be very business friendly. We need to be more friendly than we've been in the past, I'll put it that way. And the other thing on the I would say on the tax increment financing is that I remember, I think Jerry Bido said we had $111 million of building permits last year. I'm not expecting to answer me today, but I'd like to know how many dollars of that 111 million was in TIF areas, and so we're not getting any the city's not getting any tax revenue from that project for 15 or 20 years or 10 years, whatever it is. Future TIF projects almost to me need to be, a third goes to LMI, a third goes to the developer, and the city's gotta get some upfront money. We still, because we'll find out. We need work, we need some of that right now income just as well. We have to plow the streets, we have to police them, we have to provide fire protection, and, we have a cost. It's hidden. It's well hidden, it's scattered about in a lot of different accounts, but it's still a cost. And so I just think we need to, if something comes online and it's paying $10,000 a year in taxes, we need to be getting a piece of that right away. I've said my piece. Well, and each deal will stand on its own, so we'll figure that out.
Yeah, I can, having been involved in the Molengrot project for 20 years, that all went. And I'm telling you what, there's a whole lot of property tax being paid to the City of Pella on that project right now. It's a delayed, and you're right, it has to make sense currently, and it's delayed. And always, again, it's always the question, would the development happen without the incentives? I can promise you that the Molengrot project would not have gone forward without the city's participation in the project. And so those are all those considerations, but that's not what we're doing right now.
No.
We're just talking about getting the urban renewal established, and I think this is a great opportunity, and let's not cut it off right now.
That's right.
We can always decide. So I think let's move it forward.
Fantastic, thank you.
All right, our second item is outside agency funding request. We have Pace Alliance, HERDA, and Habitat for Humanity. Should we go in that order? You have something to lead with, or?
Yeah, sure do, and
Okay.
Heidi has it up here for us, and Mayor DeWard is correct. We have 3 agencies tonight that are discussing financial requests. Actually, in the case of the Pace Alliance, it's a membership request that the city has traditionally had in the Pace Alliance on it as well. The reason why we're discussing these requests is the twofold. Under state law, when you look at agencies, particularly nonprofit agencies, the city's going to need to have a contract with each of these agencies before we can have a partnership with them. So there'll be a formal contract the city council's going to be presented with. Before we draft the contract, we want to make sure that the council's in favor to move forward with a partnership with each one of these agencies. The second item that we have tonight is just we want to make sure when we look at the term of the contract with city administration, if council would like to propose that we proceed with these partnerships this evening, or in the case of the Pace Alliance, our continued membership in the Pace Alliance, we're proposing a 1-year term on the contracts. And so what that would get us through is June 30th, 2027. Hopefully by the time that happens, the Department of Management or Department of Revenue can give us a little bit of guidance on the new property tax legislation in the state of Iowa as well. So I'm joking on that one. That'll happen long before then, but right now, again, we're recommending a 1-year term. Now, in the case of the Pace Alliance, historically, we've been at a membership level of $30,000 per year. City administration believes there's many positive benefits from the city's memberships in the Pace Alliance, and we've also had a good deal of cooperation on projects with the Pace Alliance as well. As far as the money is concerned, as far as the 2027 budget is included in the FY27 budget, the $30,000 amount. And with that, Mr. Mayor, we'd like to go ahead and turn the floor over to Ms. Karen Eicher.
Floor is yours, Karen.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Well, good evening. I just wanted to first start out with thanking you for your membership over the number of years we've had a partnership. It has been very beneficial for PACE, and we hope for you as well. What I'm going to do tonight is just give you a snapshot of some of the priorities and strategies around those that we have completed or still are in progress, just to give you a little idea of what we're doing day to day. And if you are always interested, we have quarterly meetings and all kinds of newsletters you can read as well. But I'm also very happy to come and give you an update periodically. So I'm going to start the same way I started last year. just by giving some trends and overall barometer, statuses that we tend to watch to see what our economic health is just community-wide. So I'm going to start with the number of new businesses, and this is according to the state of Iowa. This is the active retail sales and retail use business registrations. So in 2025, we had 118 new permits issued with the state. So very impressive. It's up 57% from the year before. And actually 100 is about our average. I wish I could tell you how many of those businesses either cease to exist or close, but they don't always report that to the state. So I cannot give you a net, but that's a really encouraging number. And I can tell you in our office, I have worked with more young entrepreneurs in the last year, year and a half, starting their businesses. It's really encouraging to see. So that was an encouraging number for us. We also track jobs. Those last year were down just a hair, 1.4%. You guys probably have also heard the early retirements. That's kind of nationwide right now. We do anticipate, according to what we're hearing from our companies, that that will actually increase this year, and you can report differently next year. However, payroll went up. We like to see that number as well, about $8 million. And I said we always like to track these things just looking at history. So I'm going to ask you a trivia question. Last year I asked you what you thought that number was, and we all lowballed it. I did myself before we got the number from the state. But I want you to take a guess at where it was 5 years ago. Anybody have a guess? Keep in mind, we grow those numbers of businesses every year, but how far ahead do you think we are from where we were 5 years ago?
700 million, I'm a glutton for punishment.
You are so close. If I had a free coffee certificate, I'd give you one. 707 million.
Good job. Hey, good job.
So we are up 33% in 5 years.
Wow.
And I think we all see that. We have great employers and great jobs. We also track our household income, which, as no surprise, went up a little bit with those increased wages to a little over $84,000. Our retail spending went down just a little bit, just under 3%. You can see economy has a lot to do with that. And then our number of visits to the downtown, also down just a hair. And I will clarify here, the number of visits is the number of cell phones that cross our geofenced area. It is not the number of visitors that come into our community. It's the number of visits a person makes to the downtown. So we are down just a little bit, but I can also tell you we track how long people are downtown, because that also tells us the longer you spend downtown, the more likely you are to spend more money, right? In 2024, so 2 years ago, we had a dwell time, they call it, of 42 minutes. It's not very long. That was actually concerning to me. So what do you do about that? You encourage people to stay longer through events, through sales, through different promotions. And in 2025, that actually went back up to 73 minutes on average. So a much better number for us. And I'm going to just point out, thank you to approving different events downtown. Our Fab Foodie Fridays, the Opera House Outdoors, Oktoberfest, all kinds of promotions that the downtown does, all helps that number. So continue to let those events happen. And we have great partners all throughout the community that makes those for us. A little bit on pace, we have 252 members. 70% of those last year were actively involved in what we do, whether that was attending an event, participating in promotions, on a council or one of our committees. When I talk to my peers around the state, that is an extremely high number. We have a very active business community here, and it's a whole lot of fun to work with them. They helped us put on 76 events, and we had about 16,000 people attend those throughout the year. And you can see some of our volunteer members helping us out with those on the screen. Too fast. Our priority areas. I'll highlight just some of the work we do in this. We work on workforce attraction. We all know our employers need great people. Member connections. We have members, businesses, we want them to have the tools they need to grow. And community engagement. Once we get people here, we want them to stay. So I just want to highlight some of the activities we do in each one of those areas. So workforce attraction. Now, we have companies with great jobs. Case Alliance does not hire those people, but what we can do is market our community and make it a place where they can picture themselves living. So in 2025, we took about 10 months to redo our website. That is really the front door to our community for people who aren't even here. So we want to make sure they're getting a great insight into what life would be like here. And we know our website is heavily used, and I put some stats up on the board for you. In 2025, we had 71,000, almost 72,000 unique devices logging into our site, viewing almost 250,000 pages within that site. Our rentals, we talk about housing. You can see what kind of traffic we have there. We are one of very few communities that actually put up a rental page like we do. We have active rentals that we are updating every single day. We keep track of all landlords, and we have a very unique relationship with not only people who own properties, who voluntarily upload those or let us know when they are rented, but we also have a great relationship with the employers who drive their candidates to the site, so they don't have to worry about where are they going to live, how are they going to help them find places to live. So we had 8,300 unique devices logging in there, looking at 52,000 rentals. So if you know anybody who owns property that doesn't have on there, let us know. It's an easy way to get it rented. Events calendar, again, we're one of very few unique communities of our size to have a community events calendar as complete as we possibly can make that. 22,000 devices logged in there. Our jobs page also has a great traffic stat. And one of the things we added late last year, and I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but just highlight it, we added a place on our website where people can go to find opportunities to volunteer. We let our members, nonprofits, post their positions free of charge, and just another way to integrate people into our community. We had a lot of people that we tour around the community during their interview process that wanted to know how to get tapped in with volunteer. So we created a place where they could go and search what opportunities were available. So it was up for about 3 months in the time that this stat was taken. We had over 912 people looking at the different opportunities. We can't tell if they actually volunteered, but what organization would want to put their position out in front of those volunteers? We also continued our community tours. We have employers that also want their employees to look at the community, or potential employees, look at the community, like where they're going to live, and in addition to working. Our tours were actually down a little bit in 25, but we did manage. I know we did some for the city. Spencer, I had the honor of touring him. Hopefully he had all of his questions answered and helped him make the decision he needed. That we hear from our employers that will be ramping up, and so far we are seeing that in our office. But it's a great way for the candidates to be able to talk about the community, ask us questions that might not either be appropriate or have time during the course of their interview on site. In front of you, I also handed out our relocation guide. This is another recruitment tool that we use. We print this every other year, and it really just highlights and gives snapshots of what life is like in our community. These are handed out to any potential resident, any request we get in our office for relocation information, and we have them around the community as well. So you can take a look at that. We highlight some of our employment in there. We have school information, healthcare, what kind of events take place here, what kind of recreation there is. So we find that to be a very helpful piece, and we just launched that at the beginning of the year. Some of the the other things we do in recruitment not only focus on people who might be in the workforce already, but we also want our interns to be really, we want them to like the community as they're doing their internships. This summer, we're gonna have 120 interns throughout our companies, so they're telling us. We actually did our first orientation yesterday to 35 young men and ladies at Vermeer, and we get an opportunity to really talk to them about what kind of recreation is here, what kind of events are here, what can they do all summer long. We get a chance to ask where they live. Lots of them at Central's campus, which is perfect. They're gonna be here all summer, and we can show what this area has to offer them. We also will operate our GroupMe app again. That is basically a chat that any of them can log on to, ask questions, meet up. Our office can post events to that site, so they have an idea of what is going on each and every week when they're here. In addition, we want to focus on our college students. So twice a year, this is something we continue to do. We added it twice a year. We do a campus to career. So we invite juniors and seniors from the 3 schools shown up there. And we have them on a panel, bring in HR and small business owners from around our community, where they get an opportunity to see what the students are thinking when they are looking for employment, where they're looking for employment, what they are wanting in their corporate environment, and just really get an insight into what they are thinking. This is a great opportunity for the employers to make sure they're putting their jobs on sites that they're actually visiting, so they can get in front of them. Right after this event in March, we were talking with some of our local HR reps, and we are going to pilot in September a reverse career fair. So we're going to have HR professionals in the front of the room, and we are going to work with Central College, we're working on that now, to really invite students from freshman through senior in, and they will have the opportunity to ask the HR professionals, what should they be doing in the world of AI resume review? What can they do to make sure their resume isn't kicked out? So it's going to be I think a fun panel, hopefully very informative for the students, and also very beneficial for the HR, because they are wanting to see things from the students that they really aren't seeing, so it's going to be their opportunity to let them know that this is what we're looking for. The other opportunity we have that's going to be new this year is in addition to Red Rock Startup. Red Rock Startup has been going for a few years. It's an entrepreneurial pitch competition that was open to anybody in, I think it was 8th grade through 90 years old, whomever. We had several really great ideas on new companies or companies that wanted to grow. With some change in the leadership at the Marion County Development Commission, which is where we partnered, they rebranded it a little bit, hence the 2.0. And this year they worked with Central College, a couple of the professors there, for class projects. Teams of students made a pitch, and 2 of them were awarded dollars to continue their search for a startup company. This was funded through a grant that the Marion County Development Commission secured, and there's still money remaining. So we're going to get together later this week with those 2 professors from Central, Dan Nyland with Marion County, myself, and Terry Voss with WorkSmart, to really figure out what can we do with this money that's remaining so we don't have to give it up, that could really set things up for the future, that could be sustaining to really encourage some of those Central students with their entrepreneurial dreams. So more to come on that. Member connections, we focus very, very much on this. And I would love to see all of you. You are employees of the city. I'd love to see you at any one of these events. Let's Do Lunch, we do those monthly. It is simply, everybody eats lunch. You can just come. We announce where that is, what time it will be, And we have an area blocked off. You just sit down and meet the people beside you. We started a speed networking event in October of last year. We did a repeat in March. We're going to do another one in October. This is simply a great way for new business owners and owners that have been in business for a while to get to meet each other. It's kind of like speed dating. We limit it to 24 people. There's 4 people at a table, and you have 6 minutes to introduce yourself, switch to the next one. So by the time you are done, you have met all 24. You're familiar with what they do. 90% of our spring session that we did, and I think it was 94% of our last fall, got business from this particular event. So it was fantastic. We'll do that again. I would encourage you to sign up for it if that's something you're interested in. Just a couple more business exchange. That's a monthly as well. This is just an opportunity for business owners or employees. It's topic-based to learn about something that is related to business. So whether that is AI, how do you use that in your business, specific tools, how do you use them, how can it sort your inbox, insurances, we have accounting, all kinds of experts from our local community come in and talk to the group. All of these are ideas that came out of our Business Development Council. This is a very active group of business owners that really just want to make sure they elevate everybody else along with their own business. So they're always thinking of ways to connect and really make the best of being here in Pella. And also connecting members. This is something that our office and our staff do in addition to coordinating all of this, but really working at how can we make sure our businesses stay. We just had actually 3 over the last 8 months, businesses that were going to be going up for sale. If they didn't sell, they were probably going to close. We were actually able to connect them with other members who wound up buying those or taking those over. So they will be remaining. That's always fun. Connecting business owners with new properties and new spaces. That is something that we are here to do, and it's fun to do. So happy to do that. Community engagement, you've seen a lot of these. Thursdays in Pella, very unique for communities of our size, and this will be the 30th consecutive year that we do Thursdays. Lots of people participate in that. We have 67 members that helped us out with that last year. We have over 12,000 attendees. As you know, the city band does 8 concerts. And as a sign of success, we had 40+ cubic yards of garbage. We all know the more garbage, the more success. But lots of fun to put on. We will do 8 of these this year. And just a great way to get the community downtown connected and give them something free to do. Obviously, Christmas season is just one of several things going on. Mayor, I'm sorry you got bumped by Santa and the singing kids in that one, but thank you for your participation in that. And then I also mentioned we have our volunteer hub, which is definitely a way to connect. But we also had another thought after giving many tours and having the same question. People wanted to know how to get in touch with a club or an organization. We have lots of them here. Everything from arts, special interest, recreation, and some of them are all volunteer. You don't necessarily know, it's not a storefront you can go to. If you don't know their Facebook or their website, you might not know where they are. So we will actually be launching almost the exact same template on our website with all of the contacts for clubs and organizations. So when people are looking to move into the community, they can go there and find what is available here, number one, what is their interest, and how to contact them. So we hope to launch that later this fall. We're trying to collect all that information. We are learning a lot. There's tons of organizations and clubs we didn't even know existed here. So it's been a learning experience for us as well. And finally, to really continue to connect with our community, we are active on social media. Last year, if you don't follow our pages, please do. Last year, we had our content views, just under 1 million views of all of our content on Facebook, and just over 500,000 on Instagram. So putting out a lot of social media fun, and having people follow, answer questions. We do promotions where we give away, or members give away products. Really helps people just kind of stay connected and stay in contact. And with that, highlight, I know we're late on time here, but I just really, again, wanted to thank you for your partnership and your membership, and I look forward to many more years.
Thank you, Karen. Anybody have any questions for Karen?
Cool, thanks.
And I did have, there's a page, if you didn't see it already, all the stats that I had in the beginning, they're on that sheet for you as well, if you need those for any reason.
Okay.
I believe, Mayor, the next organization that we have up this evening is HERDA. Do we have representatives here? And Heidi, if we can show their slide real quick, please. Yeah. Now, as far as the request that we have this evening from HERDA, it's for the amount of $21,640. It's also been included in the city's 2027 budget. Now, as far as operational issues, city staff is not aware of any operational issues. The service appears to be operating rather smoothly within the transportation service, that is, within the city of Pella. And so with that, we'd like to go ahead and turn it over to representatives from HERDA. So.
Hi, I'm Jillian Castillo. I'm the CEO of HERDA. And I first want to thank you for funding us for the first time in fiscal year 26 and for your consideration of funding us again in fiscal year 27. Because I'm not as close to the daily operations as our chief operating officer is, I'm going to turn it over to her to give you some of the stats and some of the things that we are doing as an agency.
Good evening. Lots of familiar faces. So I'm Brooke Ramsey, and for those in the audience who don't know me, and any of you who forgot, just real quickly, we've been around since 1981. We're actually a quasi-governmental agency. We do have a standalone nonprofit that we started about 2019 for grant-seeking purposes for organizations, foundations, and such that we couldn't have HERDA apply for as a governmental body. Last year in the city of Pella, we provided over 7,000 trips, which is an increase. We have continued to see an increase in demand for transit services and expect that to continue. Wanted to talk a little bit about some of the innovative things that we have going on. Do you want to cover the ICAM project? I caught her off guard. Okay, so we had written a grant which is funded through the Federal Transit Administration, and it's a mobility grant. One of the things that we're able to do is purchase some hybrid vehicles, which we have never had the option to do before. So we just purchased 6 off of the state contract, the state of Iowa's contract, and we're looking at 6 sedans as well to bring those into communities for a lot of different reasons. They're good for the environment, but it'll be a new type of vehicle that the communities will see and the community members will see. So we're hoping to kind of reach out to some folks who maybe haven't used our service before. We also have a volunteer program. We just heard a little bit about volunteers. We received a grant through AmeriCorps Seniors to start an RSVP, which is a retired and senior volunteer program focused on engaging adults who are 55 plus to volunteer in the community. Our focus area is called Healthy Futures. So that can be medical transportation, including pharmacy. It can be socialization. We call that our Friendly Neighbor program. And it can also be access to foods. So we really believe all 3 of those things go hand in hand in creating healthy communities. And so with that program, we recruit volunteers, but we also work with volunteer stations. So maybe an organization or a business that could utilize volunteers. We can do additional things as well, such as working with the school district. So if you haven't already met Mildred, our volunteer program manager, she would love to hear from you if you have a volunteer need or would like to talk more about how we can work together on volunteer programs. And then we also heard earlier about the airport and working with FAA. And so HERDA works with the Federal Transit Administration, the FTA. And while we do receive funding from them, their funding comes with match requirements. Much like we heard about the infrastructure grants at FAA were 90-10, our operating funds are 50-50. So that is why we reach out to the local cities and ask for matching dollars. Some of the challenges that we've experienced come along with some of those costs, not unlike the city yourself. Increased costs for fuel have definitely been impacting us, especially in the last few months. The cost for maintenance, repair of our vehicles, purchasing replacement vehicles, those are all challenges that we face on a regular basis. I'm sure that you've experienced, again with the city's budget, on healthcare increases. We had to take less lucrative health insurance plans for our employees this year because Wellmark proposed a 22% increase in our health insurance premiums, which HERDA's budget could not absorb, nor could our employees take on that cost. Auto insurance went up over 30% this year, which we were told by ICAP was pretty common across the state. So again, I'm sure you're recognizing all of these same challenges. So just trying to work within the constraints that we have, it has been a difficult couple of years. And then, you know, again, we do have a lot of innovative things that we're working on. We received a grant to build a maintenance facility that will help HERDA invest in ourselves and at the same time reduce long-term costs. We will continue to try and keep as much maintenance locally that we can. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to send a bus several, you know, hundreds of, like 100 miles just to do an oil change. That doesn't make sense. We do try to keep as much community in much of our spending in the community as possible, so we hire local. We have local employees here that live and work in the community, and again, we're helping to impact the local economic environment as well. 9 out of 10 trips taken go to earn or to spend money in your community. We could probably talk a lot more about HERDA. Julia's been here 16 years, I've been here 15, but I think it might make more sense to give you guys time to ask any questions that you have.
How many communities are you in?
We serve a 7-county region, and that encompasses over 4,100 square miles and 84 cities.
Where is your maintenance shop that you were just discussing?
It will be located in the city of Waukee, which is, because our service areas is the 7 counties surrounding the Des Moines Metro, we wanted to pick some place that was fairly centralized for all of our communities to be able to take advantage of that.
In, just a question, keeping things local, can you tell me how many rides you've provided in the community, Pella?
Yeah, in Pella for fiscal year 25, it was over 7,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
You got a lot of people to a lot of doctor's appointments, didn't you?
And that was almost 2,000 rides from the previous year. So ridership is increasing, the needs are increasing.
I'm glad I asked that question.
But that's a good reminder. We do serve anyone for any reason, which we have started adding to our vehicles moving forward. Anybody can ride. If your car's in the shop for a day and you just need a ride to work while you have your brakes done and a ride back to pick your car up, we can do that. You know, it's like I said, grocery shopping, haircuts, lunch with a girlfriend. Pretty much anything you would drive yourself to do, you could use the bus.
Wow. And also, so people know, we are an on-demand service now, so you do not have a waiting period of having to call 24 hours in advance. You can call the same day and get a ride the same day.
Okay, good to know, because that was always a concern of mine. Good to know, thank you.
Yeah, we have an app that you can use too on your phone. So if you're a caregiver, whether you have children or you have older, you know, parents that you're caregiving for, maybe just a family member, you can download the app and you can check their upcoming trips. You can have your payments all done electronically. You can see how long it'll be until your next ride. You can cancel your rides, things of that nature. You can do that all through the app now.
Thank you. A lot of good information. Any more questions, anyone?
All right, thank you so
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll move on to Habitat for Humanity's request.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the Habitat for Humanity request that we have is $20,000 for the critical home repair program. It is important to note that the city has not made a previous financial contribution to Habitat for Humanity. However, we are at the city staff level, and city administration, we're very supportive of the work they perform in Pella and Marion County as well. And with that, we would just like to mention before we turn the floor over to Amy on it, that if council chooses to participate in the program, what staff would recommend is the funding be used for LMI projects or projects within our corporate boundaries. So with that, we have Ms. Amy Meyer, as the Executive Director of Habitat for Humanity. So Amy.
Hello, thank you for listening to me tonight. I'll try to go as quickly as I can. I am here tonight to talk about our critical home repair program, but I did want to just make a quick plug. Oh, I'll use this. For our new build program, we got $1.5 million of American Rescue Plan Act funds to build 6 homes in the past 2 years. So we did those throughout Marion County, 2 in Knoxville, 2 in Bussey, Pleasantville, Melcher, Dallas. So while a home is a big lift, it's really exciting to see in 2 years there's 25 people sleeping in these homes each night, men, women, and children. And so we had wanted to build in Pella, but we weren't able to find a piece of land that we could build on. In 2026, we're building 2 new builds in Knoxville. One will be being built by the building trades class at Knoxville High School, and then another one done by contractors and volunteers. But I also want to highlight that we are doing a rehab in Pella. This is in Brook Circle. In the Habitat world, we actually call this a recycle, which means it was built as a Habitat house. It was sold back to us after 15 or 20 years, and now we're rehabbing it to be sold to another Habitat family. This house will be sold with a 0 interest mortgage and $35,000 in down payment assistance. To the woman in the pictures below, she is actually a Vermeer employee. She was connected to us by the chaplain program at Vermeer. She's worked there for several years. She drives every day to work from Fairfield, so she is very excited to not have to drive 130 miles every day just to get to her job. So she has 5 children and some grandchildren, but she'll be moving just with her youngest, which is a high school age student. So that project should be finished soon. But to speak about critical home repair, I did just want to start by addressing the need. I know I don't need to tell you kind of the broader housing issues of how affordable and safe housing is getting harder and harder to find in not just our community, but throughout the country. But just some quick stats to highlight. The average house in Pella is now almost 50 years old, which is usually the point you see a lot of capital improvements start to be needed. In the latest housing assessment, they found that 14% of Pella housing is either in need of major or minor repairs, and I would say that that doesn't really capture the whole number. That was just done from an outward assessment. That's not, there's plenty of stuff inside that I'm sure would also be in need of repair. And with 1 in 3 Pella households making below $50,000 a year, think of what a $10,000 roof bill would do if you're making $50,000 a year. I tried to find some kind of broader numbers. They say the average cost to maintain a single family home is around $10,000. So that's beyond a lot of people's financial abilities. Costs of everything have gone up, roofs have gone up, and I know I'll add to the list of health insurance, but also homeowners insurance has really increased, especially in Iowa. It's doubled in the last 5 years, and so we have tons of people who are struggling to afford homeowners insurance. They have to drop it, or they get a call or a letter from their homeowners insurance that says, you got to replace your siding, you have 60 days. And so again, when you think about people making under $50,000 a year, that's a pretty unlikely thing to happen. And if they get dropped from their homeowner's insurance, it's pretty hard to get back on and find a policy that then can be affordable for you. So that's a big thing. We get calls pretty frequently from people who have to do a repair because their homeowner's insurance told them that they have to do that. So here's our solution. We spent almost $400,000 in critical home repair funds in 2025. So you can see kind of the broad range of things that we do. It can be anything that makes a house unsafe to live in. So that can be leaking roofs, your furnace goes out, it can be a foundation issue, but it can also be an accessibility issue. So it can be you're new to a wheelchair and your house is not accessible. So we do a number of ramps, big demand for walk-in showers, walk-in tubs, people who can't really step into a tub any longer
So one quick example I'll share is we got a call early November. A man said his leg was about to be amputated. Neither the inside nor the outside of his house was accessible in any way, and we kind of were able to expedite that process. There was a contractor working literally on Thanksgiving Day. We didn't ask him to do that, but he did. And so when that man came home from the hospital, there was an accessible home that he could then enter. So, like I said, we spent almost $400,000, did 37 projects across Marion County. I really just want to highlight who this program targets. We can serve anyone up to 80% of area median income, so it would all qualify for LMI, but who it actually helps is significantly lower income than that. 80% AMI is pretty high, but you can see $33,000 is the average household salary of the people that we help. And so it's not uncommon for the people we help to be living on one Social Security payment a month, maybe $1,200. And again, think of a major cost, even a water heater, which is a pretty low cost. We have helped people who haven't had hot water in months because they didn't know about our program. So it also skews heavily elderly. Almost 2/3 are people over the age of 62, and heavily people with disabilities. So 38% have a family member with a disability. So I really like that these numbers show that we're targeting who we're wanting to target, right? Elderly, disabled, low-income people. That's really who this program is targeting. Now to move on to Pella specifically, this was included in your packet, but we did spend $88,000 in the past 3 years in Pella. I kind of did some broad examples of what we did, but I do have some pictures here that I pulled to show you before and after. On top is a roof and gutters that we did. Below is a before and after of siding the whole house. That was here just in town. And then the before and after of this roof here. And then the ramp, you can also see there's a large ramp in front of the house that we were able to do to help get an elderly gentleman to have access to his home. So the other ones are not, it's not fun to show a furnace picture, but you get it. There's a lot of work we do. I'll breeze through this because I'm cognizant of the time, but there was a branch that fell on a house. Insurance said they wouldn't cover it because the tree was dead, so we were able to repair that. It did actually eventually get painted as well. This is a real shocking one that I did the home visit for, and that's their gray water just being dumped into their yard. This is not in Pella, I just want to preface that. So I believe it's outside Lacona, but as you can see, there's really just, here's a better picture of it, compressed cardboard pretty much is what they're being used as insulation, which obviously is not waterproof. And so to be able to side that house, think of the energy cost that that house is getting with now their house fully sided. So we did a culvert for someone who didn't even have access to their house because that bridge had collapsed over a river. This is outside Knoxville, so we were able to do that. I just show this to show that the program is very flexible with what we're able to do. Things we had never heard of, issues we had never heard of, now we can, if it's something that's keeping you from being safe in your home, this person was elderly and disabled, actually had fallen on that bridge a few times as she had to park on one side and carry her groceries to the other side. This is an AC unit on a roof. A man called and said something about his AC unit, and he's like, well, I can't get to it. And we're like, what do you mean? He's like, well, it's on the roof. And if you can see how unstable that roof is there. So yeah, we not only replaced it, we put it in a safe place down below and rebuilt that porch. Again, a lot of ramps. We do a lot of ramps, and we will continue to see the demand for that. This was a really rough bathroom. That picture on the right, that blackness you can see there is a 3-foot fall to the crawl space. Another elderly disabled man who kind of took his life in his own hands every time he went to the bathroom. And so we were able to pretty quickly repair one of those bathrooms. All right, now to the money part. In 2025, like I said, we spent almost $400,000. That came largely through the Central Iowa Housing Trust Fund, which is our regional housing trust fund that covers us. It does require a local match. City of Knoxville, City of Pleasantville, City of Melcher Dallas, and Marion County all gave. I believe Knoxville and Pleasantville, those were LMI funds they used. I don't think Melcher Dallas or the county used LMI funds, but so yeah. And then that blue box, I also want to highlight that was a COVID-related program that Habitat served as the kind of local rep for, and so those were big projects that we were able to do up to $35,000 a piece. And so that's significant money that came into the county that we were able to use for home repairs. Sadly, COVID is over, and we don't get that anymore. Not sadly, I guess I should say.
$97,000 from our Central Iowa Housing Trust Fund. It's already been matched by Knoxville and Pleasantville. And then my request to you tonight is $20,000 from the City of Pella to support critical home repair. We do have to kind of target the communities where we are getting that local support. So not that we always weren't available to the City of Pella. When Pella residents reach out and need critical home repair, we were always able to do it. But we didn't target it the way that we would target in the communities that were providing that match. So that is to say that if we did get this funding, we would really do a more concerted effort to make sure everyone in Pella knew about it. I know that I've mentioned to you being in the water bill. That was a huge thing for us in Knoxville and Melcher, Dallas. They put a flyer in everyone's water bill. It really got the word out. And then once people saw their neighbors getting siding and roofs, and then it just really spirals from there, which is great. We love to see that everyone who needs it, it's available to them. So, any questions?
Has the county committed to 2026?
They did it in the fall of last year, so I'll go to them again in the fall of 2026, yeah.
So the money that comes from Knoxville and Pleasantville, is that restricted to those, to be spent in those communities?
Yeah, so we provide them a report. They do upfront us the money, which we appreciate, but at the end of the year, then we provide them a report of that amount has been done, which obviously we blow way more than that in those communities, so.
Okay.
Ideally, it would be the same, where I would present next year about what we did with those funds.
And Amy, are these matching funds?
So we're required, for this grant, we were required to get $50,000 of match, which we do already have. So, I mean, it is technically a match, but it's going above and beyond what our match requirement is. Yeah.
And the parameters that Mike spoke of, that should not be a problem in the lease?
The parameters of spending it in city limits?
They would stay within the LMI housing districts, and it would stay in Pella?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, we would ensure that we are spending enough in Pella.
Right,
to quantify that. Yep.
Okay.
And we run out, last 2 years, we've run out of money in the fall. So this is not, there's not a demand issue, especially if we do that outreach.
And I can tell you that I have had multiple, like more than a dozen people in my ward alone come to me and say, I just can't do it. I mean, I have to live with a bucket under my roof or pay for my prescriptions. And so I applaud you.
Thank you. Yeah, even beyond the money, knowing who to call for some of these things, even just being able to provide the warm contact to a contractor who they can trust. Because again, sometimes we get people who are like, well, I did pay someone, but they never did the work. Or to really, for those people who, need someone to advocate on their behalf, we're happy to play that role because we obviously have good relationships with a lot of contractors.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do.
Sure, happy to do it.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. So anyone object to these funding requests?
No. Go for it. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mayor.
All right.
Okay. Let's go ahead to our last item tonight. And again, it's been a long evening. I'll try to go through this very briefly, but if I'm going too fast, feel free to slow me down, and we'll make sure we explain items here. The purpose of this session is to talk about an overview of Senate File 2472 and its potential impacts to the City of Pella. And I want to explain the second item right here. The state of Iowa, in passing this legislation, they had numerous interests that was considered on this, and numerous impacts on it as well. So it was rather broad in the legislation. So let's don't read that. We didn't mean to read too much into this right here that can't be quantified at this time, other than the fact that the formulas are somewhat complex with the bill. I can tell you that I sat through a webinar with the Department of Management just this past week, and they told us that they anticipate having webinars and informational sessions out to cities yet this summer and in the fall, and they're still looking on how they're going to administer the bill. And so this isn't criticism of anybody. There's just a lot of interest with the bill right now, and there's some moving parts right now that the state of Iowa hasn't quantified or been able to share on how they're going to administer the program. So some of the items there were included in the bill, we're not exactly sure how they're going to work. And what we're really here to talk about tonight are the items that we think that we have clarity on with it. But equally important to note is that most provisions that we're going to be talking about tonight will become effective on July 1st, 2027. So that would be our fiscal year 2028 budget, or the budget that we'll be planning here traditionally in January of next year. So let's talk very briefly as far as the legislation. When we look at the overall cap, the general fund, roughly when we talk about that general fund operating levy, as far as it accounts for about 70% of the property taxes the City of Pella levies on that. That particular levy was capped at 2% on it. And again, the state's going to come out with definitions and the formulas on how that's going to be computed on this as well. But equally important to note, there's some offset and there was some compromise, which we're certainly appreciative of as well. The cap does not apply to some of the items that we don't have, we do have control over, but they're difficult to administer. One of them would be employee benefits, that would be health insurance costs, property and liability insurance costs. Those are not subject to the cap as well. Now, as far as some other mechanisms under here, and this was included in the bill on this as well, when we look at new construction, so we had the 2% cap on the general fund, and new construction, so these would be new buildings that come online, that's in addition to the 2% cap, so they're not subject to the 2% cap. However, one of the items that we do and that we're looking at right now and how this could potentially impact Pella is that we've had robust TIF districts at the city for several years with this, and we've been very fortunate to have the development that we've had. It doesn't appear on this legislation, and where I'm going with this is traditionally or annually or rather routinely, we do release TIF valuations from the city's TIF districts to support the general fund on it as well. It doesn't appear that those are going to be exempted from the cap as well, so they'll still be subject to the 2% cap and levy limits, it appears, based on our understanding as well. We think that fact is probably going to shape some of the discussions on our current TIF strategy that we'll have, to be honest with you. And we anticipate there's going to be future work sessions on this very item, as long with the property tax legislation for the rest of this year. But just a little bit different view on TIF and how it's worked in the past. Usually when TIF districts get expired or retired, the valuation comes online, and at that time they're fully available to the taxing entities, and the thought is that those additional costs that the city incurs with it, now we have valuations to support the additional growth on there as well. Doesn't appear that that's going to be the case in the future on this, but again, what that's really going to matter is if that is truly, which we believe it is, probably change in how we look at TIF and the strategies for TIFs on a go-forward basis. So again, there'll be more to come on this here very, very soon. Let's go ahead, please, Heidi. Let's talk about some of the things that we understand. It's our understanding that the homestead credit will be phased out over 3 years. Annually, we receive about $103,000 on the homestead credit. We believe the impact in 2028 is going to be about $34,000 on this. And then also down here as well, it looks like the business property tax credit, in which historically the city receives about $178,000. It's our understanding that's been phased out as well. So when we look at what we would consider funding decreases for the city on it, we believe that's somewhere north of $212,000, what we know of now on this as well. So again, with that, those are two of the items that we could talk with that we think we have clarity on. Another item is on a go-forward basis, and this is more of a mechanism for the county assessor on it, is the burden of proof for the county assessor and property tax assessments greater than 10% shifts to the assessor as well. So we anticipate there's going to be less, I'd call them increases above 10% than what there has been in the past on the valuations on this as well. So Heidi, let's go ahead, please. Now, before we talk about TIF, again, there's other provisions in the bill, and our plan is once we have an understanding of those impacts and how the Department of Management is actually going to administer the new legislation, we'll have additional work sessions once we have clarity on those items, and we can talk specifically on the impacts to Pella. But right now, it's our understanding, if we'd say what we know and understand, is it looks like there's a decrease in revenue to the City of Pella for FY28 of about $212,000. But again, once we get clarity on the remaining provisions in the bill, we'll be back to talk about additional work sessions in dealing with those funding decreases as well. Let's talk about TIF on here. Now, as far as actually like financing is concerned, it's important to note, from, at least from a development standpoint, I think there were some positive changes that involved TIF this year, looking at it. For instance, TIF districts for residential TIFs now have the same term as a commercial TIF district. If you recall, we've done a lot of work with Marion County and the Pella Community School Districts. I can personally attest to this, that when you look at residential TIFs, right now under state law, they're subject to a 10-year term unless the governing bodies, that would be the City Council, the Marion County Supervisors, and the Pella Community School Districts would agree to a 5-year extension. Then they could go out to 15. It looks like everything now is going to be over 23 years, which I think is a positive as well. One of the key takeaways, again, just to oversimplify things, I want to point out 2 other things with TIF, is it looks like the section that deals with low and moderate income housing withholding requirements has been eliminated with this legislation. We're still waiting guidance from legal counsel on that. So we're uncertain right now as applies to TIF districts if we're going to have to still require to withhold LMI funds in the future on this. And so we're looking for clarity on that, but that could be another significant change with this as well. The other item that I wanted to point out, this is more of a timing issue, but there is some TIF planning that I would state that's fairly critical for the City of Pella on it. When you look at TIF districts, again, we talked about TIF strategy is probably likely to change for the City of Pella, but there's areas that are currently not in urban renewal areas. We talked about one of them this evening that City Administration believes should be in an urban renewal area. That was the Central College campus or portions of it. There's other areas around town that we believe should be in an urban renewal plan. And we're going to be talking about these urban renewal districts coming up here because it's somewhat time pressing. And under the current legislation for urban renewal plans created after December 31st of this year, it looks like we're not going to be able to capture the $5.40 school foundation levy on that as well. So that would account for about 25% of the city's existing TIF rates on that. And so looking at that, we want to make sure that our urban renewal districts are up to speed. And again, looking at the overall urban renewal plan strategy, once again, we just want to make sure that if we are going to have development projects in the future, we have those urban renewal plans available and that we have all the tools in our toolbox to be able to accomplish the goals of those urban renewal plans. So again, the key date here is December 31st, along with the LMI. On a few other notes with this, again, looking at the essential services tax, it looks like there's been an increase in the maximum rate subject to voter approval, going up from 75 cents to $1.50 per $1,000 of taxable valuation. I think that's a positive as well with this legislation. So again, looking at this, when we look at this, as council is aware, Marion County has assigned or put together a committee to look at an essential services tax to support EMS services in Marion County. That increase, it looks like the maximum has gone up or almost doubled on what's allowed under state law for the voters to decide on as well. So that was a very quick summary on this, and we really anticipate this is going to be the first of, I'd say, multiple work sessions this year, and they'll occur once we have more information, but we'll devise a strategy to deal with this. Again, I would like to emphasize, regardless and I don't want to make it sound like the state had a big job on this, and we understand there's competing interest on it. We simply got to deal with what we have in front of us and make sure that we're good financial stewards of the taxpayers' money. And we've always done that at the City of Pella. We've always had long-term financial plans. We'll do this with this new legislation, and we'll come up with a game plan for dealing with it. But right now, the tricky part about this is we feel there's aspects of this bill that are simply unknown, so it's difficult to quantify. But as soon as we have clarity on it, we'll have multiple work sessions. So with that, future work sessions anyway, Mr. Mayor. But with that, that concludes the staff presentation. So if the council has any questions on that, we'll be happy to address them.
Could make next year's budget rather interesting, huh?
They're all interesting, yeah. So, yeah.
I just have a comment. Last evening, I reached out to 4 female elected officials, one that is standing in the back. All 4 got back to me within a half hour of my questions. And I'm really impressed by that, very impressed by that. The speed and the courtesy that they all showed me, and they're in much higher positions than I am. But it was clear to me that the state wants the communities to understand why this is in place and how it is not the end of the earth. And they are absolutely, positively representing the taxpayer in this bill. And if you want a summation of it, and probably 90% of you don't, but I did, there is a really good podcast from the League of Iowans for Tax Relief explaining it, and it is phenomenal. Take 20 minutes of your time to see what your government did for you as citizens in this bill. Yeah, it's going to be a little bumpy for us, but the message is coming to us, and the state's support is for you. So we need to receive the message. And I did hear from the League of Cities that they're going to have a webinar in about 2 weeks. So, I don't know, that was probably long-winded, but I felt it was a very necessary statement for all of us to hear. Very eye-opening for me. So, thank you, Barb. She was one of the 15-minute, I don't even think it took you 15 minutes, but that is very humbling for me to have that happen.
Okay, any lot of unknowns yet? We'll be learning over the next few months, I'm sure. By the time we get to January and we start talking budget, we'll be well schooled on what this really means. Okay? All right. Anything else, Mike?
I think that's it, Mayor.
All right. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Hopkins, Brander, Horse, all in favor, please say yes. Opposed, no. Mandy, please call the roll.
Hopkins.
Yes.
Brander.
Yes.
Butler.
Yes.
Carlstone.
Yes.
Dan Stryland.
Yes.
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 Motion passed. We are adjourned.